Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, place about games, friends getting better. My name is Ben Hansen, joined by Haley McLean.
Hi.
Hi. Joined by Kyle Hilliard.
What the hell?
Hi. Joined by Janet Garcia.
Hello.
We're trying to break
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, bring us back down to earth. We were trying to create the most obnoxious podcast, just pitch-changing tone intro of all time. But no, this is going to be a smooth, easy, lovely podcast. I'm very excited about this one because, of course, we're going to Silly Town. Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. We're talking all about it. Then we're taking a hard 90-degree turn, skidding around the corner. We're basically doing an Akira slide, Kyle. That's a 90-degree turn. And then we're getting spooky and talking about killer clowns, ghosts in a mansion, something about eating human beings. And then we're going to be joined by one Ellie Joy Panic from Twitch, big From Software streamer. And we're going to be talking about Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. No huge spoilers for that. We'll talk about, the first boss or so in the game, a couple of side bosses, stuff like that. But if you've played the first couple hours, you should be completely safe for Shadow of the Erdtree's discussion there. But then, back half of the show, of course, we have great questions submitted over there on Patreon. How's everybody doing?
What's Shadow of the Erdtree? Haven't heard of it. What's that?
So Haley, in the Monday meeting this week, Sarah was like, I need to get Haley into Elden Ring. And you're a passionate dabbler, if I may say that respectfully.
Cool.
I'm surprised that you haven't given it a real college try for Elden Ring yet.
I did actually back when it came out. I remember I just gotten my puppy at the time, and it was a bad time to have a puppy because you can't pause that game. So she'd have garbage. I actually have a clip on my Twitch of a moment where she had garbage in her mouth. So I ran away from the game to get the garbage out of her mouth because that's more important. And I just brutally died on screen while it was away. I think I could try it again. Sarah's saying that because I've just been lurking in her streams watching her play. And she'll go, look, Haley, look at this pony. And she's like, try interested in it. And I'll go to my computer to write, yes, very cute pony, but this game looks insanely hard. After that, she'll die 10 times in a row. And I'm supposed to be like, yippee, can't wait.
But
I don't know. I'll try it again.
Funny when you die. Look, we'll talk all about it once Ellie gets here. But we got to start out nice and easy. We're easing people in. We're luring them in with the banana, saying, "Come over here, come over here, video game podcast listeners," because we're going to be talking about. Kyle, is that wince a good sign or?
I'm thinking of is a banana that enticing?
It also was a little confusing because he definitely whistled as if to call a dog. But then,
well, what's a human whistle?
There was a lot of mixing and matching going on.
How do
I
you
think
the
it's best
Planet
not
of
to
the
read
Apes
into.
movies? How do they call them when they're in the cages? Draco in the first one, does he whistle at them or what's
It's a madhouse. If you need anything about Planet of the Apes, go right to Kyle. He's the expert here. But okay, the point is we're talking about Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Kyle, we're talking about bananas rumbling. That's all that's going on here, man.
Good.
This is the new Super Monkey Ball game. Kyle, set the scene for the state of the Monkey Ball franchise. What's the tone of this franchise? How long has it been around? Give us some good deets.
It's it's in the Mario Kart, Mario Party zone, I feel like. A lot of people were big fans of Monkey Ball's multiplayer. And I knew a lot of people that just had it on GameCube that weren't even big gamers really. It just became this you got Mario Sunshine, Monkey Ball, of course. It's really? Oh, that's an of course?
I would love the full post-mortem on the sales for Super Monkey Ball 2. Because, why was everybody grabbing it? We're just all that eager for multiplayer stuff. To the point that when I recorded the documentary on the Oregon Trail back in 2009, one of the programmers for Oregon Trail, he's like, I don't really play games anymore. I mean, obviously, Super Monkey Ball 2, I play all the multiplayer stuff there. It's what? Even the programmer for Oregon Trail. So you're right.
It is a game that you see and you understand immediately, and even if you aren't really big into video games, you're like, okay, I want to try that because that's weird.
Yes.
Right? It's enticing to everybody. But for me, I have the same sort of appreciation for the series as I do Trials, in that I really like the early game a lot, but once it gets hard, it gets too hard for me, and I'm out.
Yeah. So if you don't know Monkey Ball, the basic idea is you're tilting the stage technically, and there's a little monkey who's trapped in a very cute ball, and you're just trying to navigate to the end of this level, and it's a little Marble Madness-y. It's a lot of precariously being right on the edge, but hopefully not falling and all this stuff. Just super easy pick up and play arcadey fun. But yeah. I've been playing
and like an awesome game to watch be speed run.
Oh,
like it's way up there in terms for me of just like watching really good people play that game. Is like watching a magician do a trick. It's like insane.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm going to Summer Games Done Quick this weekend. I'm excited to go there in person again. I am also thinking about going to Magic Camp. I'm not committed fully yet, but
I could see that for you.
It'd be great. But no, it's so weird jumping into Super Monkey Ball, Banana Rumble, and just it was this whole epiphany. And I don't know if you all have those franchises that you kind of forget how much you loved, and then it's like, oh, that's right, I beat the hell out of Super Monkey Ball 2. Like I played so much of that damn game, and I've been really enjoying my time with Monkey Ball Banana Rumble to the point that I'm sitting on the couch being like, should I be playing this instead of Shadow of the Erdtree? It's like, you know what? And sometimes you got to lean into what you want to do in this moment right here, right now. And it's just smooth, easy, arcadey gaming to try and get this silly monkey to the end of the stage and pick up bananas along the way. It's just satisfying, you know?
I'm surprised that you can play it because I thought, like, I'm literally in the tutorial, so I really can't say much on this SKU of it, even though I also had it for GameCube. Because I think everyone has the game.
Legally obligated.
100% of people.
Like when you get the GameCube, you get handed a copy of Super Monkey. Like it's Luigi's Mansion, but it's actually just Super Monkey Ball. But the cameras, I feel like jumping into even just the tutorial part, I'm like, whoa, I forgot how disorienting this feels. But that doesn't motion sickify you.
It does. I can feel it a little bit in my gut. And maybe if I marathon this game for a couple hours, I'd be puking by the end of it. But I am really sensitive to that type of thing. But it is weird that you can't turn off the camera tilting in the menu anywhere. It seems like it's kind of baked into the design of Monkey Ball is to make it feel like you're shifting the entire plane of everything here. But yeah, this release is exciting just because it's a new Monkey Ball game. Like we had, this is such a silly franchise. We had Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania back in 2021. Now, Haley, don't be confused about the difference between a Banana Mania and a Banana Rumble. Because Banana Rumble, this is a whole new entry in the franchise, which hasn't happened since the Wii for like mainline stuff, not mobile, not little spin-off thingies. So it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle, are you...
What would it be? Like Monkey Ball... They should have just called it like 3 or something.
They
right?
should.
Or is there a 3 or a 4?
Where's the banana? I'm confused.
Yeah, exactly.
It just creates chaos.
Are you enjoying it, Kyle?
Yeah, I am actually. It's funny because I have never like Monkey Ball was always like, oh, I'll play that for a little bit at a friend's house. I've never like sat down and committed to a Monkey Ball game.
Yeah, it's like
and
marriage.
Here I played through the first couple worlds, you know, really get invested in that story of that girl looking for her.
Oh my god!
It's a story of like a abandoned child trying to. It's not just monkeys and balls rolling around.
It's the story of trying to collect all the different parts around the world, but this is top tier for games that you play, and I've just been hovering over that skip cutscene button. It's like, God, and eventually I got to the point of this game after playing it for a couple hours, I'm like, I can't. I'm skipping absolutely every story moment. It's just a complete waste of time. It's like sitting through the story in like Puyo Puyo Tetris or something. Like, what are we doing here?
I don't like skipping cutscenes.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I'm in the same boat where I'm just like, what am I doing to myself?
It's so unbearably stupid.
I don't know why I'm like, this is like, would you like to wait 5 minutes to play the next level? And I'm like, I guess.
But then what if you skip and you miss something crucial? Because even in the again, I know I just played the tutorial, but that was my immediate thing too. I'm like, I don't think I need the story in here. But then I was like, but what if you do? And I was like, that's a good point.
What if they reveal important mechanics in a cutscene?
Yeah, I don't know.
What if I's wife dies? I mean, you never know what could happen.
Why don't I just come back to the wife dying for you too? That's I watched the D&D one shot. There's a lot of that through line.
Oh, that's interesting. Well. Yeah, we can analyze it in a post-show discussion
that way. You know,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Someone do that Venn diagram, please, and send it to us. Ben and Christopher Nolan. What do they have in common?
Please don't.
But I don't know if I'm going to see it to credits, honestly. Like if I'm being honest with myself, but like I'm enjoying it, and I'm like, I kind of went into it being like, yeah, I'm going to actually really play a Monkey Ball game and see if I enjoy it all the way to the end, and we'll see. Yeah. So far, I've been enjoying it.
So I have like the deluxe version, and so I unlocked Sonic immediately. Do you have that version too, Kyle? Have you been playing as Sonic trapped inside a little ball?
I know. Sonic's in this game?
Oh,
everyone's
is he ever?
In this game. And at least in the last one, you could like play as as Sega console.
Yeah, you could be a console. You kind of play in like a big gachapon ball.
Yeah.
It's kind of how you can think of it. It's like you're a gachapon, but you're not open.
Yeah. Was Ichiban in the game too? I think.
I forget. I remember you could play as a Game Gear in the last one, which I'm disappointed that you can't be a Game Gear rolling around in this one. But you got all the Sonic characters, and then you got Just at Radio Man, and then you have Crazy Taxi Dude. Like a guy in a taxi inside of a ball rolling around collecting bananas, and they're selling this game for what, $60? It's just high art, everybody.
But I got to see if I have those characters to unlock and stuff, because it would be fun to play as something other than just, is that his name?
Oh, it's his name, right? I don't know if you want to though, Kyle, because it's offensive how it doesn't respect Sonic and his lore, because every monkey has little stats, And I was excited to get Sonic and check out his stats. The speed. Haley, are you a game designer? The speed on Sonic, 4 out of 5.
That's insane.
There's a monkey, this lousy monkey Yan. Their speed is 5 out of 5. They're faster than Sonic. It ain't right, everybody.
It ain't right.
Anyways, but Monkey Ball, 200 stages in this thing. It's good pick up and play, easy game and fun, even though it's going to get brutally challenging by the end. But the big thing for this one is that they have a spin dash, another big Sonic thing, right? So it's like, now it's even harder to stay on the stage, but you can try and aim it and launch it where you want to go. It's a funky little thing. Backstage
passes, you can play as Kiryu and Ichiban.
In this one?
In the last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think, unless Chad let us know, but I assume it was like the last one.
That's so silly.
Dang it.
Okay, enough of this nonsense. Let's get to cool adult games like Killer Klowns from Outer Space, :
This is even less adult than Monkey Ball.
All right, so
I
Haley,
don't think that's true.
I'm so curious about this because you streamed it with Kobesoft Joe, friend of the show, and Leo Vader on MinnMax's channel. You can check it out on YouTube. But you are the Dead by Daylight super fan, and so it seems like they're trying to do that thing with this asymmetric game. Multiplayer game.
Asymmetrical horror, yeah. It's a genre.
It's a genre.
There's a few of them.
But it really feels like
Predator Hunting Grounds team, right? Like this has kind of become their bread and butter at this point.
Yeah, right? So Ilphonic, they started out, they made Friday the 13th, and then it's that weird thing. And Haley, have you looked into this at all, where they, at a certain point, were not legally allowed to update or patch that game because they lost the license to it, so they just had to let it die? Is a really weird history for the Friday the 13th game.
Yeah, they essentially had a post that was like, hey, we can't do anything to this game anymore, so enjoy it until X. I can't remember what date it was. I think it was sometime in 2023. Like, and after that, sad. Anyways, thanks for being with us. This is a whole different tangent, but it's interesting how this genre seems to need IP in order to live. And anyone that comes out that isn't somehow connected to an IP, even a 1980s whatever movie like Killer Klowns, which I watched the trailer before we played it, seems hilarious, but like I've never watched it, or like I don't think, my dad's seen every movie ever from the 80s, and I asked him, he's like, I haven't seen that movie. So I was like,
okay, so that's a good barometer. I mean, it's like everybody knows the name, I think, right?
Yeah,
like, it's just
that's the thing.
It stands out on that front, even if it's not exactly.
It's pretty easy.
That's like half the battle.
It honestly is.
Yeah. I think I know what the movie's about. It's descriptive. Killer Klowns from Outer Space. I'm like, wonder what happens in that flick. It's not like Saw or something where maybe a saw gets used. Killer Klowns come down from outer space and they kill people. Yeah. And that's the film.
And that's a video game too now.
Well, but then in the video game, the thing I ran into, Haley, is like, wait, so like it's cotton candy, and I'm like gathering people. There is like weird lore stuff in there that like it totally goes over my head. I have no idea.
Yeah, because Kyle, you talked to the developers about it?
Yeah, I played like a session with them. Like we played like a couple rounds. Yeah,
cool. It's doing interesting things that fill in gaps that Dead by Daylight I think could learn from. We had this discussion with Texas Chainsaw last year. Of course, it's the same discussion, just a different IP on top. It's like they're doing different things from Dead by Daylight, but Dead by Daylight will never be toppled because they're so solid in this genre where everything else fades away, and they just keep getting more and more IP. Like they just got Lara Croft like last week. Lara Croft's in Dead by Daylight, and no one even cares. It's like, that's great. How did they get her? They just like put her in.
So wait, so Nicolas Cage can hunt down Lara Croft?
Nicolas Cage can team up with Lara Croft and fight against a villain, can fight against Chucky or Alien from Alien. And it's just like, it's just ridiculous. They just have untappable market of stuff they could shove in there. And the core gameplay loop of Dead by Daylight is very like fine-tuned, and people can be absolute greasers and insane. I think I've said it before, like you can run around a bush or you can run around a goddamn bush. Like I don't know how they do it. They're just maximized skill in that game, and I can't catch them. But this game was interesting because it is doing slightly different things. So Dead by Daylight's 1v4, this is 3v7. So that's already a little different. And then it's just like small things. Like the biggest thing that I think all three of us loved when we were playing it is you get to play mini games while you're dead, and you get stuff that you can send to your friends via the mini games if you do well. So there was tons of examples where I was dead, Leo's running around trying to get away from the clowns, and I get like a drink that gives him full stamina for 5 seconds, and I go, Leo, here's a drink, and I send it to him, and he goes, just what I need. Drinks it, runs. I'm like, I'm still part of it. Whereas in all the other asymmetrical horror games, when you're dead, you might as well go next. It's like, what's the point? Like, there's no use sticking around. But this one has a machine where you can recall everybody back in at any point during the game, but you can only use it once. So it makes sense to wait until you think the maximum amount of people that are dead. So like 4 or 5 or 6 or even, and then you call them back so you can come back in. So that's an interesting twist too. So it incentivizes people to stick around after you're dead, which I think is really important for this kind of game, where as soon as I'm dead as a survivor in Dead by Daylight, it's like, unless my best friend is playing and I like listening to them talk while they're playing, I might as well just leave. It's just, it fixes that problem, but everything else is sort of just like the same basics. You chase, you run away. Some characters have better stats than other characters. This one, you do, the clowns shoot cotton candy, and then it turns you into a cotton candy egg thing, and then they hook you on these hooks that create lackeys. Like, you really have to play 1 or 2 and then like, okay, but explaining to somebody is ridiculous. Like, even when we were playing, Leo's like, what are these big pink walls? And I was like, all right, so Clownpocalypse is going to happen at the very end. And he's like, oh my God. Like, it's just like the most ridiculous IP to try to solidify this to, but it was fun, but I could not see myself wanting to play it solo. It was really fun because I was playing with Joe and Leo, not necessarily like something I could see myself grinding solo for a bunch of hours like I do with Dead by Daylight.
It is funny just to think of a game called Killer Klowns from Outer Space. I mean, it's hilarious. I can't stop laughing at these clowns, but it's just funny to think of like, Ilphonic is such a solid developer at this point that like, this game shouldn't be as good as it is, but you play and it's like, oh, this is surprisingly solid, surprisingly well put together for what it is. It's great we're in that spot.
As clown was so fun. We only got that a couple times, and then there was a couple games where like just Joe was a clown and Leo and I were humans. So then it was kind of like, haha, don't listen to what Leo and I are saying, Joe, while we all three play together in a Discord call. But playing as a clown was like 10 million times more fun for me personally than playing as a human. When the three of us were clowns, that was insanely fun. And then when all three of us were humans, it was still fun.
Sure.
But at the very end of the stream, we tried to queue as clowns and we just were leaving lobbies. Sorry, I know that's very rude to do, but we just wanted one more clown. We joined maybe 10, 15 games and didn't get clown the whole time. So it's if you're queued up with 3, I don't know, maybe the matchmaking isn't quite there yet, but we just wanted to be clowns all night and we just couldn't.
I get it. We've all been there. Kyle, I had a weird moment the other night of, I think it was like just uploaded to PlayStation's YouTube channel. So it popped up in my feed of just Season 24 of Dragon Ball The Breakers. Now we have Baby Vegeta in there, and it's like, God, this game is still going on.
Oh, yeah, that game.
Did you play that at all, really?
I got an email about that this morning, and I was like, wow. I had the same thought. I was like, wow. And then I just moved it over to my Bandai Namco folder to never be fully read, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but imagine.
Folder of death.
Yeah, no one's coming out of that thing. But still, you should know, Kyle, in my heart of hearts, I still think, what if I really get into Dragon Ball The Breakers before it's shut down 3 months from now?
I paid for it, and I don't think I've played a single round. I think I did the tutorial. I just liked the sort of concept so much. You know? I was like, I'll play this someday. I'll pay full price for this.
I was going to say, can we do a What If New Show Plus? I know it's kind of like double dipping into the concepts of the teacher one we did, where it's like, teach me this thing or like whatever, but I think like MinnMax What If, and it's just us like in an alternate universe.
That's pretty good. Like what if?
Together.
Yeah, we were just really into this game that we normally wouldn't.
It can't be worse than Marvel's What If, because that series did not.
Wow. Hey, what if they released...
That's one of the bad ones.
What if they released a sequel to Luigi's Mansion on the Switch, but it's after Luigi's Mansion 3 came out, but this game is called Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. What do you think of that wacky world, everybody?
What is it? 2013?
12?
I don't know. What were they doing HD at the end of it?
Oh, yeah, it does feel like a weird blast from the past. But yeah, so
there's no banana, so I'm confused.
It's kind of like a Flashlight Rumble situation for Luigi's Mansion 2 here. So this is a remake on the Switch for Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, as apparently it was only called in the US. I guess everywhere else it was called Luigi's Mansion 2. So this isn't as weird as isn't as weird as I thought it was. But Kyle, you beat this darn game?
I beat this darn game. Yeah, the first Luigi's Mansion I've seen to credits.
That's shocking.
Yay!
Yeah,
well,
2 HD. I liked it okay. I was not.
3 is better. 3 is better than.
Yeah, you
2.
can't actually. Even though you rolled credits on this, but it doesn't count. Actually, the franchise is great, and you're wrong if you don't have a positive, glowing appreciation for it.
I watched my wife and daughter play 3, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun, and I was just the odd man out because it's 2-player.
So it's
traumatic. I played single
experience.
player. I don't think it actually is that. I don't think it's that enjoyable of a 2-player. It's okay as 2-player.
Yeah.
But
you're bashing the Gooigi? The Googe Man himself? You're saying he's inessential?
Well, I think you have such like a specific... I don't really like 2-player when we're 1 foot into a specific skill set for 1 player. I feel like let's have everyone be specified or let's not have everyone be specified.
Oh, sure.
But you kind of get like, oh, well, I can't do this certain thing as Gooigi, but you're not so specific that it feels like you have your own roles. You kind of just get like caught in the middle, in my opinion, of the co-op experience. It's not bad, but I enjoy like that game.
Mario and Cappy.
It's not that bad. It's not like you're totally not playing the game.
Right.
But I think it's better as a single player experience.
Yeah, because like Mario and Cappy is like let your kid hold a controller so they feel like
it's not like nearly that bad.
Like
I've been enjoying doing the co-op of it, but it is definitely a thing where there will be times where you're like, I literally just can't do anything and I just have to wait.
Right. Yeah, it is wild to look at Luigi's Mansion 3 though, just to set this thing up a little bit. For like, you guys know how much that game has sold? Luigi's Mansion 3 on the Switch?
3? It can't be that much.
Can't be that much.
It's a lot. It's a huge hit, right?
It's 14.25.
I mean, I love Luigi's Mansion.
Million copies for Luigi's Mansion 3. Like over 14 million units. Like, Sony...
Can you give us a above and below for that to contextualize it in Nintendo? Because Nintendo sells stuff like crazy.
Yeah, I don't have the exact comparisons directly above and below, but just for a point of comparison from Sony, like, they were out there bragging about Spider-Man 2, like, it's the fastest selling game we've ever had. This is incredible. And that was like 10 million units. But that was
really?
But that was back in February. So I bet at this point, Spider-Man 2 is probably near this, maybe, but right. I just feel like Luigi's Mansion 3 on Switch is quietly just this sales juggernaut out there.
It's my most lent out Switch game. That's a weird fact I've never thought about. Like I'm the type who buys physical Switch games because I have 3 or 4 friends who all have Switches, and I'll just be like, I'm the nice friend who will buy a physical and we'll all just share, but they all want Luigi's Mansion 3. That's always the one everyone's borrowing.
Oh, yeah. You should give them Monkey Ball. Then no one's gonna be able to say that.
The thing is, you give them the case of Luigi's Mansion 3, but inside is Monkey Ball.
Yeah, the way it should be. So no, it's a weird thing, right? Where Luigi's Mansion 1 on the GameCube was remade for the 3DS, and now Luigi's Mansion 2 is remade for the Switch, but you still can't play Luigi's Mansion 1 on the Switch, but it makes sense that they want to get something on there to capitalize on that Luigi's Mansion fandom. But Kyle, you had a fine time with it? Like, what stood out? You must have dabbled back in 2013.
And also, did it feel old? Did it feel old playing that game today? Because I played that game when it came out, like on my 3DS.
Yeah.
So like, how was... But then Luigi's Mansion kind of always felt old, so I'm so curious what it felt like to play it.
Also, Kyle, what are you wearing?
Over here, Kyle.
Sure. Haley, any questions? I'm trying to parse all the questions genuinely. Yeah, it was okay. It was like I said, my first time. Like I'm going all in on Luigi's Mansion. I finished it. I liked it. But I'm not like what's it called? Like
a stan.
I'm not a convert. That's the word I was looking for. A convert. Okay. Like I wasn't like, oh, I need to go play 3. I need to go back and play 1. I was like, that was a totally solid experience. They really nailed just like walking around an old spooky house and spooky stuff happens and you vacuum is just like a simple fun thing that they've sort of extrapolated it on and added to. And I wouldn't say it feels old, but it does feel like a 3DS game because like it I talked about it in my review I wrote over in Game Forum, but like the pace is rough because you are constantly getting kicked out. Where it's like it's meant to be very bite-sized. So like you'll be playing for like 5 minutes and you find something and then it's like, oh great, I'll bring you back home. And I'm like, I would be happy to hang out in this mansion for like another hour. You do not need to.
I remember hating that aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if 3 is better about that.
Yeah, because it's like the one location in 3 compared to this one where it's just like, all right, here's this mansion over here, here's this little mansion over here, like jumping between all these different places.
I mean that's cool.
It's like
though,
I wanted to do that completionist run, and it's like it would keep pulling you out. It's like, and now you're done because you did the thing. I'm like, well, there's some drawers unopened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, and it's also like. I'm looking at it, I'm maybe unfairly comparing it to Metroid Prime and Paper Mario, which those games felt like the Switch versions felt like these really significant overhauls that look really good. Yeah. And I know we're talking about porting a GameCube game versus porting a 3DS game, but it's not this like, it's not, especially compared to those games, which like I said, maybe is unfair. It does not have the same like visual upgrade feeling, like the lighting is mediocre and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm sorry, Ben. I just, I gotta speak the truth sometimes.
No, it is interesting. You look at the gameplay footage where it's like, okay, it does not look as good as Luigi's Mansion 3, everybody. It's like, it looks like an HD version of a 3DS game, which is still solid. But yeah, I guess the developer, it's not Next Level, who originally developed the game on 3DS, but it's Tantalus, like an Australian developer who goes way, way back. But they also did like Skyward Sword HD recently and stuff. So it feels like they're kind of becoming the new monster games for Nintendo, what monster games used to be. Sure. Just like, all right, you can handle some of these HD upgrades, different ports of different things and whatnot, but it seems like they're...
But I'm glad it exists. Like, I'm glad it's on...
No, Dan, he said it.
Kiss of death.
Yeah, he said the key words. Nope, he's done. Write it off, everybody. Luigi's Mansion 2 is done at this point with that type of
Here's the thing, though,
fan
Kyle.
praise.
You said you're not a convert. Are you just doomed with this franchise now? Because it's not like there's... You know what I mean? Like, 3's already out.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to, like... If 4, you know what I mean? Like, I think, is it just over? Is it over for you and Luigi's Mansion?
That's a good question. Will I be excited for 4? Presuming there's a 4. I don't know. But I felt the same way about Pikmin, and I loved Pikmin. Like, Pikmin 4, I adored. So I could see, they could do something really exciting with it. But yeah, it's not like one that I'm like, if I hear the spooky music start on a Nintendo Direct, I'm not going to lose my mind for Luigi's Mansion. It's like, oh, they're bringing it back. I'm going to be like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll check that out. We'll see.
Yeah. Give me the biggest surprise playing the game. Biggest little moment, biggest, refresh my memory of this game. Cause I loved it back in the day, but it's all a little bit of a blur of like, okay, there's a snowy cabin mansion.
Yeah, I mean the stuff that I like is like the stuff where it genuinely surprises you, where you're walking down a hallway and all of a sudden the hallway turns into like a conveyor belt and you can't like walk forward. Or it reminds me of the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney World, which I rode in the last couple of years, where like the introductory room like grows and shifts while you're waiting inside of it to get on the ride and stuff like that. And it like feels like that often, like where the room and the walls will change as you're moving through the space. Right. And like that stuff is really cool. I like when it's just it's not like trying to do a jump scare. It's just trying to do a weird, spooky thing. And that's what I like those parts.
Yeah, that's sweet. Luigi's Mansion 2, everybody! Check it out if you want more Luigi's Mansion on the Switch. All right, Haley.
You gotta play 3, Kyle. Kyle, can I offer you a cultural exchange? Is there a game that I will play of equal length to get you to play 3? Because I think you would like 3. Like 3 is better. Like if you're like, oh, 2 is solid, but like whatever. I think 3 could get you there because each iteration improves what's wrong with the previous one.
Gotcha. So I think you watch the Back to the Future trilogy.
Don't do that.
Luigi's Mansion 3.
Let me get the links on these though.
You don't get the weight of Back to the Future 3 on Janet's back here, Kyle. You can't do that to anybody, please.
3. I like it.
I love 3,
honestly,
but
it's
come
not
on.
too bad of a deal because how long to beat Luigi's Mansion 3? 13 hours. I imagine what you're asking me to do, like 6 hours of content.
Yeah.
So we got to tack on the animated show for that too. The Back to the Future
You're like goalposting this whole situation.
The musicals.
We can work it out on Slack.
We can throw that on there. I don't know.
I'll consider 3 movies. It's fine. I'll play Super Monkey Ball in the background or something. I don't know. No, I'll probably watch it fully to be even. But yeah, you should play 3. We're the same, so I think you'd like 3. Is the thing.
You'd love it, Kyle. Guaranteed.
Haley, you got a copy you can loan me, right?
Yeah, actually, my friend has it, but I'll get it for you.
Smart.
They actually do. They've had it for like 2 years. I should probably get it
back. Is this the friend that you're cutting up and eating, Haley?
Whoa, no.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Do that to my friends.
What is this? So you said of all the games now, you're playing a game called Ravenous Devils?
Yeah, it was $5 on Steam. I've had it on my wish list for what feels like forever. It came out in 2022, and I was like, you know what? It's freaking Saturday morning. The dogs walked. It's raining outside. I'll buy a $5 game and see if I'll like it. And I played the whole story mode. It was very fun. I really liked it.
Okay, so this completely passed me by, but you played it too, Janet, back in the day?
No, I played it in almost the same plot that Haley followed. Nice. Where I was like, it was probably also Saturday morning. I was on my Steam Deck. You know, we're looking around for what the vibes are, and we saw this game, and it's like the pitch is like highly compelling. Haley, I don't want to steal the pitch from you. What is this game about? Because the second I read this, I was like, yeah, I would like this game. I want to play this game.
I feel like our elevator pitch would be identical. It's really just, it's Sweeney Todd mixed with Diner Dash. Like, manage things, but the way you manage it is by killing people.
Yeah. It's a horror cooking simulator. So it's like, great. I like to cook.
Okay, how graphic are we getting here? I mean, is it like earball soup?
Yuck! Nothing.
It's like you kill people and you like put them into like a mixer.
Yeah,
but you're not like watching them like from the top down get mixed. You know,
is there blood? It's like blood.
Yeah, there's blood.
There's
kind of like cartoony looking.
Click the ground.
Yeah,
if you say you want to move somewhere and you click the ground, a big swash of blood splashes to indicate that's where you clicked.
Jesus
so it's pretty
Christ.
purposefully like bloody and silly. There's 3 ways you can turn humans into meat. There's the grinder to just turn them into like, I don't know, ground beef
patties. Yeah,
patties. And then there's the sausage maker, but the worst animation is for steaks. And I was honestly like like a little bit like, oh my God, because you get it. You know, you go through your days, you make money, you upgrade. That satisfying game loop everyone loves. Oh, now look how cute my pub is. I've gotten the cute plants, and now my oven's twice as fast, and now my sewing machine is 3 times as fast, and you just feel great about yourself while you're going through. I unlock the steaks, and it's this big table, and I was like, okay, I'll tell her to go make a steak, and she'd just be slapping this body on, lifts up the arm, chucks it in a bin, other arm, and there are long animations because it's supposed to be like you make all your meat at the end of the day. You start to learn when to do things and when's the best time. Like you shouldn't be making steaks in the middle of your shift because it's too big. Anyways, the animations are slightly upsetting, and it's funny how you get desensitized. Like the first couple times I watched that, I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. And then, you know, day 30 on my story, I was like, more steaks, grind up that girl, grind up him, use his clothes to make a new outfit. Like you get used to it.
You gotta worry about like staying hidden with your nasty crimes. Like, are the cops coming around and be like, is there murder here, or is it just game on?
There murder here?
No harm done.
No, there's like an underlying little story that goes on. Some guy named Jay is sending you letters, and there's, you know, he has certain people he wants to eat. So when they come in, there's like a cutscene that you like killing them and putting them aside for Jay. And then, you know, those cutscenes only get triggered when you upgrade your shop so much. So as soon as you get like the 3rd table in your pub, that'll trigger the next cutscene for something. So you should have things flowing by the time these things happen. But overall, like the fun of it is really just maintaining things, because it's very self-sufficient, which makes sense because you don't have to go buy meat if you're just killing your clients, you know. So it's cut in half like a dollhouse, which I really liked. And then I played on PC, so I could just scroll with my mouse to look up and down the floors. And the husband's on the top floor, he's a tailor, and the wife's on the bottom floor, she's the cook. And he kills the people, steals their clothes to make new clothes to sell, and then tosses the bodies down to her like 2 floors down this vat.
Perfect
and
system.
then she takes that, makes it into food, and puts it up in the pub on the main floor. And you're constantly just switching up and down between the two. Like, oh, I haven't looked at him in a bit. And if you miss a client, like if a client comes in for measurements, they could also leave and you not kill them, and then you're low on meat for the next day. So you also have to pay attention to what he's up to. So someone doesn't just get their measurements and go home safe to their children. They need to get murdered. And you're just constantly going up and down. You open a vegetable garden, so then you're only getting your vegetables from in-house. Obviously use bodies as fertilizer, so you'll chuck a body up in the bathtub of the greenhouse every so often to fertilize all the stuff. There's a lot of little managements, but it was just very silly. Like Janet was saying, it's just a compelling thought. If this could be any animations on top, like I could be pulling weeds or something instead of cutting a human body up to make a steak.
It's all the same.
And it would be the same game loop. It's just like a very silly concept.
Yeah, I think what's appealing is like, you know, the thing I always go back to with games like this, where there are genres that are both niche, but also like highly saturated, where I think a lot of people that don't play this are like, another one? Like, how many bakeries can you have? And first of all, it's like a lot. Like, I love a good cooking sim, bakery, shop kind of management thing. But this is sort of the secret sauce, you know, no pun intended, that makes it stand out, where it's like, oh, it's got like this dark little twist. I'm also just a big fan of cute stuff having dark twists. You know, it's what makes, it's funny, Haley, we were just talking about on New Show Plus when we did the fashion episode 2 about how compelling Cult of the Lamb is, because it also has that kind of idea of, oh, it's cute, but it's actually like really dark and it's a little gory. Perspective wise, and I guess it's more realistic than this game, but perspective wise, it's very like Fallout Shelter. And then cartoon wise, like, it is a lot of blood, but because you're also far away, like you have that zoomed out perspective, it's like manageably gory. And I think because it does have that perspective versus like you play Far Cry and it's like you cut this person's head off and you're like seeing it. It's like, all right, it's not quite that extreme, but it is definitely hamming up the blood, the gore, the like squelching sounds, that kind of thing.
It's weird to think that this is on Switch, isn't it? That Nintendo's like, yeah, here you go, Sweeney Todd Simulator. Jump on in. It's bizarre. But Ravenous Devils is the name of this. I'm seeing the developer, Bad Advice Games, they also made a game called Sexual Void.
I'm more scared.
I haven't played that one.
Yeah, okay. We'll see what's going on here with these
Don't
weirdos.
put that on us. We haven't invented that.
Okay. I'm just saying you're the biggest fan of this game. All right, whatever they sign off on. But there you go. Ravenous Devils, everybody. Hey, before we jump in and get our guest in here and all this fun stuff, we should point out that we have a code giveaway happening with MinnMax at the current moment. If you jump in on Patreon before the end of this Friday, June 28th, 2024, you jump in, support us at any tier, we will DM you on Patreon with a Steam code for Tales of Kenzera Zao. The Metroidvania that just came out a couple months ago, that people were very wooed by the story. Tales of Kenzera Zao came out a couple months ago. You can jump in, support us on Patreon. We'll DM you a Steam code for this Metroidvania. We have 100 codes to give away, which is awesome. Shout out to the developers at Surgeon Studios for sending them our way. But the idea is, if you check out our Patreon page, which we hope you do, there's links in the description here. And if you see that the total number of paid supporters, if it's under 4,705, that means you're looking alive, and we'll DM you a code. But if we hit that number, that means we're out of Steam codes for Tales of Kenzera Zao. But if you want to help support independent games media, you want to unlock the podcast version of the deepest dive on Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, which is going on right now with Kyle and Jacob Geller hosting it, and Sarah Pozorski, and Renata Price is back from her victory lap on the Armored Core 6 Deepest Dive for joining on this whole thing, but you can unlock the podcast version of that. Haley's show, Bonus Pod, which airs every single week. It's a Patreon exclusive podcast, all that stuff, and you get a code for a new game. You can jump in there, support us on Patreon. We appreciate it. So check out Tales of Kenzera Zao on Steam by supporting us on Patreon until Friday. All right. It feels like we could use a guest at this moment in time.
We're not fun enough.
Agreed.
I just feel like we could use a little pizzazz. Let's meet a stranger. It's the most fun thing you can do on Earth.
My parents warned me about this.
Ellie Joy Panic, welcome to MinnMax.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh. Thank you so much for jumping in. I know this feels kind of out of the blue, but it was a weird thing where at Summer Game Fest this year, we had like a dinner with a bunch of old coworkers and stuff, and we're sitting around talking, and some people who I used to work with at Game Informer magazine, they're in the PR space now. And they're talking about just like how weird it is working with people in the press and content creators and giving these demos. And then two people brought up like, hey, you know who was really good is this person named Ellie Joy Panic. She was so awesome, and I'd never heard of her before. So congratulations. You wooed PR, at least, at Summer Game Fest.
Wow.
And then you're in the Wholesome Games Direct as well.
Yeah, I made some moves apparently this year that I was not anticipating.
Yeah, how does that work? Does someone just reach out and be like, hey, do you want to talk about cozy games with us for a second, or just introduce this segment?
So I've actually known the Wholesome Games crew for like years, like since they pretty much got started. I've known Jenny Kim Chica for like a long, long time. We met through our mutual love of Hollow Knight. And I produced a series for a mental health charity a few years ago, where I had various different gaming people on and like creative directors and designers and artists and, to talk about how gaming impacts mental health. And I was like, I really want to speak to the Wholesome Games people about this because it's such a huge part of so many people's gaming experiences is finding the comfort in games and stuff, and hit it off with them, and we kept in touch. And then the last few years I've just been like, hey, if you ever need a host, hey, if you want to host for something. And then they decided to add me to this year's direct. So yeah, it was super, super cool.
That's awesome. Well, congrats on that whole thing. Thank you for coming in and being our From Software expert and representing every layer of every aspect of the fandom for all of From Software on this podcast here.
No pressure.
Okay,
whatsoever.
Great. It'll be a piece of cake. No, so you're a fascinating person on a couple fronts, and don't let me kiss your ass too much here and all that stuff. But it's a little bit of like, okay, it's a Twitch streamer, Ellie Joy Panic. I'll watch a couple of her streams and like, who is this person? Where is she from? What has she done? And then it was fascinating to learn that like, okay, you were at Team 17 for a while, and then you're working at Ubisoft for a while, and then you said, all right, pulling the ripcord, going full content creator streamer route.
Yeah, so I've actually been in the games industry for 11 years now.
Whoa.
I started out freelancing, doing events, and then I moved into community management and social media management and like web content management, I guess, for Oddworld Inhabitants. And then I went to Team 17 for a bit, and then I went freelance again, and then I went to Ubisoft. And back when I was at Oddworld, I started streaming for them. For work, and then I did it at Team 17 too. And then when I started at UB, I was like, I kind of miss that. So I basically decided to stream one day, which just happened to be my birthday and the launch of the Spyro Reignited trilogy, which is my favorite game ever, and the first game I ever played. So I was like, I'm going to take the day off work and I'm going to stream and like order some food. And a bunch of people showed up, and I was like, should we do this again sometime? And 5.5 years later, here we are. So
she's slowly growing. She only streams on her birthdays, so you have to tune at the right time on Twitch, everybody. But it's pretty sweet.
And it has to overlap with the Spyro release.
Right,
yes.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, all right. You're in good company because Janet loves Spyro. Haley, you're a Spyro nut too, right?
I used to just play Spyro 2 and in that level with the pond and just swim around in circles and pretend I was a Loch Ness monster for like 10 hours.
Yeah, that sounds similar to my experience, honestly.
Yeah. I'm trying to gauge like how stubborn I am because I love Spyro 1, and then it wasn't until I think it was that remake that I played through all of Spyro 2 for the first time. I'm like, oh, this is so damn good. And I didn't make it through
Ripto's Rage, right?
Yeah. And I didn't make it.
Everyone
through
agrees
3.
that Ripto's Rage is the best of the trilogy.
That's what I was going to ask.
Everyone's like, Ripto's Rage is really good.
Am I stubborn?
Right,
like,
I've sussed this out now. I've worked out how and why this is a thing. It's because it was such a jump from like the old school graphics of the first one. It was like, we can swim now. And it's just like translated so well to modern gaming that when the remake happened, everyone was like, okay, they've bumped up Spyro 1. That is now also fantastic. But Spyro 2 still holds its own. And also, I know it as Gateway to Glimmer, and that confuses everybody because it had a different name in Europe. So everyone's like, no, it's Ripto's Rage. And I'm like, it's Gateway to Glimmer, actually.
I wish it was called Gateway to Glimmer. I think my life would have been a little nicer.
Yeah, we needed more rage and anger in our releases, I think. When we think Spyro, we think total badass.
Where's that was the era where like everything had to be edgy. They were like, we're going to put like rock underneath like every game trailer. So
Kirby Switchblade.
Yeah, hell yeah. Okay,
like, in that era, didn't even Kirby get like angry eyebrows in America?
Yeah, only the American release. Yeah,
someone make that think piece if it hasn't dropped yet. Like the the sort of grungy, angsty time of gaming.
Yeah, it never ends. We're still living in it. And this is why we brought you here, Ellie. Can we talk about the Crash Bandicoot Spyro crossover games for Game Boy Advance? Does your fandom branch out there, or is it like the core trilogy and then maybe dabbling in a little Skylanders when you're feeling creative?
So I have played almost every Spyro game.
Oh, here we go.
I've never played a Crash Bandicoot game.
Interesting.
I was kind of too young for it when they started to come out. I was like just on the cusp of like, I had Spyro, I didn't need Crash kind of thing.
Totally.
Because it was my whole childhood was just playing Spyro 1, 2, and 3 over and over, and Croc, Legend of the Gobbos and stuff, like like OG PlayStation 1 titles and stuff.
Yeah.
So I have gradually introduced my siblings to Spyro as well. My sister is 4 years younger than me, so she was prime age for when Spyro 3 came out. That was all we'd play. And then my little brother was getting into games when Skylanders came out, so I played through those with him too. So yeah, I've done most of the Spyro games, although I did play 4 on stream for the first time recently, Enter the Dragonfly, and my god, that game is garbage.
Really? Yeah, that's a rough,
I was so upset.
It's really like all of that generation stuff for like Crash 2. It's just like, what is going on over here? What happened to the heart and soul of these franchises that we loved?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. Maybe Spyro will come back in a beautiful way. Like Toys for Bob was teasing something that might be Spyro related not too long ago. It might be just another Crash thing, or might be another crossover between them, which would be kind of funky to see from Microsoft now, but who knows? Okay, Ellie, this is really what I want to talk to you about. Obviously, there's Elden Ring. We'll get to that. But I'm a sucker for like little creative features in big AAA games that we all forgot about. And when I was looking at your LinkedIn in particular, you worked on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but it seemed like specifically the story mode creator thing within Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Kyle, do you remember what this was?
No, I'm completely drawing a blank here.
So it's like you could create your own quests and script this stuff out within Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and you could like share them with the community? Sorry to make you go back into your pitch mode for this thing, but was it as cool as I want it to be looking back on this weird oddity?
I really liked working on it, and I think it was an amazing tool for the community. It was something that started out, bizarrely, it was like in my first, I want to say month and a half at UB. It was like, oh, Ellie has done community things, we'll give her this thing. Way back in like 2017 or whatever. And I pitched the kind of proposal for it to the brand teams, the global brand teams, because I was embedded in the dev team. And they were like, this is really cool. We want to see more of you doing this. And I was like, oh, and then that culminated in me leading the marketing for the project and presenting it at E3. So it was like, it just snowballed. It had like a full website designed, like we did competitions and stuff. And like, it just became this really cool system where we implemented the exact way that the devs would put in the dialogue options and the way that the facial stuff and the emotions would come across like in the game. It was the same implementation as the devs were using.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to like get to choose all the different like characters and stuff, and teach people how to like use the different framings for the conversations and how to place quest markers and things. And I think it was awesome to get to open people's eyes to the amount of work that goes into making these sorts of things too. So yeah, I honestly, until very recently, I forgot how much I did on that project specifically. So it's funny that you mention it.
Do you think like if I go back and look up what the community created, would I be shocked? Is it like a Dreams or Little Big Planet level of just super weird stuff that people made for quests in Odyssey? Or is it kind of just like, I don't know, you fight 200 of this guy in this arena at the end?
There was all sorts. We had people like writing like fanfic through it. We had people doing like headcanons for relationships and stuff, and like how they would have wanted certain quests to play out and things. And then there was people like, you're going to fight everybody, like you say, and there would just be some wildly creative scenarios that people would come up with. And we used to play them. Like the dev team, we'd be like, hey, we found another good one, and we'd like send it out in the studios, like message board, and people would all play it and stuff. And yeah, it was cool.
That's cool. That's so weird. And so you were in Quebec City then?
Yes, yeah.
That's so wild.
4 years, I think.
Oh my God, that's funny. It's just a weird coincidence. I was just on vacation there. I just got back on Sunday from a trip to Quebec City. And then after I got back,
you go to the chateau?
We had an Airbnb that was not too far away from the Chateau Frontenac, which is, if you've never seen a picture of Quebec City, look it up, because this hotel is the coolest, biggest damn thing. It's just a castle towering over the entire old Quebec City. But yeah, we were not too far away from it. But we walked around so much of the city. And then after I got home, I looked up like, oh yeah, Ubisoft has a studio there. They're making Assassin's Creed Shadows there. Where is that? And it's like, oh, we ate at a restaurant like right next to the studio. And I wish I would have walked like 2 blocks to actually look at it and peer through a window or something cool like that. But
all you'd see is the gym.
Yeah, really?
The gym's on the ground floor.
Okay. Did you like Quebec City?
It was interesting.
Okay,
Not the most friendly place for a woman to live, and a queer woman as well, and an English speaker. But I learned French. I made a lot of friends there. We got our dog there. You know, like there's a lot of good memories in that place. And yeah, it was nice for a little bit, but not somewhere where I wanted to live permanently.
Yeah.
So I settled in California instead.
Hey, beautiful. That's awesome. Okay. And you are primarily a streamer for From Software stuff. Is that overly simplifying the case here, ma'am?
So my pitch is I play hard and soft games. So I play like Stardew Valley. We're doing Sleepy Stardew Mondays at the moment to like ease us out of the weekend. And then I'm like, I'm going to do a no leveling Elden Ring run on Tuesday kind of thing. It is literally the 2 ends of the spectrum.
That's awesome.
So the best way I managed to like pitch this at Summer Games Fest was that I'm doing my first ever playthrough of Ghost of Tsushima at the moment. Absolutely loving it. If you've played it, you'll know that there's a lot of like downtime and walking through like beautiful vistas, and you get to like watch the sunrise and pick flowers and like frolic in the fields with the deer. And then I'm playing it on the hardest difficulty, so it's like it's kill or be killed. There is no room for error. Everyone is so aggressive.
Must be impossible.
It's so fun though, because it's like 2 hits and people will die, but also if I take 2 hits, I die. Yeah. So you have to be like really on it. So that's been like really fun, and people are like, wow, that is a contrast. But I found that that's what works best for me. I used to say I was a FromSoft and indie streamer, but I found that I was playing more of like the harder indie games and the roguelikes and stuff, and indie used to mean something that was more wholesome-ish. And now indie is this huge breadth of content available. So yeah, I rebranded it to hard and soft gaming. So
yeah, I think that's smart. That's a smart angle for sure. So Kyle, you've been playing a heap and helping of Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. Ellie, how much have you played of this thing so far?
I have done 2 remembrance bosses.
Okay.
And I've pretty much blitzed the entirety of the opening map zone.
Okay.
Like, I go hard on the exploration. I'm like, I'll just leave that boss for later. I'll go back to that hard part in a bit. And then I just like smash through boss after boss. And yeah.
So do you have the map fully filled out?
Oh, no.
Okay. It's like, that's what I'm running into is like, there's like the northern part and the southern part. Like I cannot, it's marked on my map that I can go to it, and I have a little blue marker on it, but I, for the life of me, cannot find those things. It's wild.
I keep accidentally finding them, and I'm like, I can't pick this up yet because I haven't finished that bit yet. So I'll just like leave it for later. And I have a notepad. I'm very organized when I play these kinds of games. So I have like, this is my NPC list. This is my gravesite plane list.
Oh my God.
This is Dragonland, where there is nothing, as you can see. Like, I go through everything and I write it all down because my memory is so bad with, I have fibromyalgia, so I have a lot of like brain fog. So if I find anything, I'm like, write a little note, and then I have to try and decipher my own note-taking later. So yeah. I keep accidentally finding the maps and just being like, maybe I shouldn't touch this yet, just in case.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I know you weighed in a little bit last week. I'd imagine since last week's podcast, you've put in a lot more time into Erdtree.
Yeah. When you say remembrance bosses, you mean like the bosses that give you, like, yeah. I don't know what I'm so bad with the terminology in Elden Ring.
The ones that are like, here is my weapon afterwards. Okay. Like those ones. I've done 2 of those.
I think I've done 5, I think is where I'm at. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. But Ellie, what do you think overall about Erdtree here?
So I feel like I need to give a bit of context to my first playthrough of Elden Ring. I streamed the whole thing and I did it a couple of months after launch to avoid like the launch hype that would mean that, you know, when you're making content, you have to like strategize when is the best time for you to cover something. I'm not a huge streamer. I don't have a huge audience. And at that point, I wasn't focusing heavily on FromSoft stuff. So I was like, I made the executive decision to leave it a couple of months, let people get it out the way, and then they could watch. So I actually only finished Elden Ring like early last year.
Okay.
So almost a full year after launch was when I finished it. And I had all the end game bosses spoiled for me. I was so bummed out by the end. I don't know how spoilery we want to go on this, but basically where the decisions kind of branch a little bit and you get like a point of no return midway through the game. Everything after that, I knew about. I'd seen art, I'd seen movesets, I'd had difficulty spoiled. Because being a creator, you want to experience everything fresh and have it as new as possible so that you can react genuinely. So by the time it came around to like the final 4 or 5 bosses, I was just so burnt out on the game. I knew what was coming. I knew about the endings.
Yeah.
I knew that there was multiple phases to things, you know, even just something like that, having you beating a boss and then it being like, psych, there's another whole health bar. And I knew about those things. And it was like, sorry, chat.
Right.
I know that this is coming. And people were like, that really sucks. So going into Shadow of the Erdtree, I was like, I'm going in day one. No spoilers. I'm going in. I'm just jumping into the game. I don't care if people watch me. I'm playing it. I'm going to enjoy myself. And honestly, it's better than I hoped. I'm really, really enjoying it. It's fixed everything I didn't like about the base game. And it feels like a more concise, thought out experience as opposed to it being like big open world for you kind of thing. So yeah.
And that game was so huge. So, you know, I played Elden Ring, beat Elden Ring, loved it, but was very much like, all right, I am done. The idea of going back to that game to fight harder bosses, it's like, I don't know if that's appealing for me, but I figured I should dabble a little bit for the podcast. So I was streaming a couple hours of it on MinnMax's Twitch channel. I'm like, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I just forgot everything I loved about Elden Ring. Like just in those couple hours, I was just immediately getting back into that groove of like, oh, that's right. This big swing with the halberd, how satisfying that is. Like all the muscle memory of like, you know, calling the horse again and the weird kind of complex hand movements to make that happen as you're reviving him and all that stuff. It's like, oh, it's all coming back to me. And it, God damn it.
Do you guys use your chin to lock on to enemies sometimes when you're running?
That's the strategy?
No, I do the claw technique. I've got a controller here. So I'll be like running around and I'll be like holding the button to sprint, and then I use this finger to like move the camera. It's difficult on an Xbox controller, but yeah, I do this because I have such long nails. I've broken some at the moment, but like I can't do the traditional claw. So I'm like like holding onto it, like I will beat these things.
It's slightly wonky, but it's worth it because it's like just the tone of that game and going back to the world, the art, and even just like the opening areas of Erdtree is like, oh my God, I forgot how awesome this looks. Just the skybox or just the weird glowing graves everywhere in like that first field that you're in. It looks so damn cool.
Yeah.
To be fair though, Erdtree looks so much better than the base game.
Yeah, okay.
The art direction is like a step up because I thought the base game was pretty and now I'm like, it's so gray, it's so brown. Like, this is gorgeous. Every zone has its own color scheme and it's vibrant and the time of day shifts cause the colors to change and it's so good.
Yeah, yeah. And the weird thing too is like, Kyle, you really plowed the road last week on the podcast for me when you're like, it's not as hard as everyone's screaming it is at this moment at least. And
that was pre-release.
Which was pre-release, yes. And I'm sure now you're hitting bosses and beating your head against a wall and stuff like that. But I've been amazed at least.
I'm not, actually.
Wow, okay.
I'm still like having a decent time with every boss. So, yeah, I don't know. But I've been hearing the rumblings of like, look out. Like this final boss is tough. Or maybe not even final. I don't know if it's final. But like I have been hearing people saying it gets tough. But I don't know. Maybe I'm high level. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I had a couple of friends come over for a party last weekend. One of them showed up late and was like, I'm so sorry. I know you'll understand, though. I was trying to beat the final boss. And I was like, it's fine. I get it. You're all good. And another friend showed up and was like, Ellie, you're not ready. This, like, the optional final boss, the one that is like the Beyond, is apparently one of the hardest FromSoft bosses like ever. And I was like, harder than Millennia, and I just got a look.
Like she's
I was
joke.
like, oh, okay.
Oh my God.
I mean, Millennia for me was like, I'll call in somebody and I'll be around. Like, that was a boss that I didn't really actively learn or beat. You know, I just like I had help.
But I did the opposite. I think there's a certain element of my own stubbornness that gets in my way sometimes, where everyone was like, you know, if you just like respect, and I was like, there will be no respecting happening here. And, you know, I was like, I'm not summoning, I'm beating her on my own. And yeah, I didn't use Spirit Ashes, didn't level up, didn't do anything.
That's impressive. No Spirit Ashes? Why?
Because it's a free health pool for
I'm retracting my impressed.
It's a free health pool. And the fact Sekiro is another one of my big, like, I love Sekiro so much. And I love how they've clearly taken inspiration from Sekiro, especially in this DLC, with how the enemies and the bosses will pivot and change their levels of aggression and defensiveness depending on how you're behaving in the fight. And because doing challenge running, I study these attack patterns. I learn them off by heart. I know exactly how to deal with certain things, how to game the attacks that I want, you know. So seeing just the sheer variety of moves that Millennia had and the way that she can change her focus, like on a whim, I was like, there is no way I'm bringing summons into this fight. No way. Because it just changes the dynamic of the fight entirely. So
yeah, I wasn't getting rolled. You know, maybe we just have a really nice community on Twitch, but I was amazed that, like, you know, going up against Big Fireman in the beginning or Black Jail Knight, whatever the hell, like, I did not have that tough of a time with them. And Twitch chat was just flattering me. They're really buttering my bread, being like, wow, everyone else has a really tough time. I can't beat this person. How'd you do it? It's like, maybe I'm secretly really good at Elden Ring and I just kind of forgot. And then I got to the big dancing lion. Like, it seems like the first real skill check in that DLC. And now I'm at a point where, like, I don't know how the hell, like, Malekith destroyed me in the base game. I did not know how I could ever get past him. And eventually I did. And now this just seems like a harder version of that fight. And so now I'm trying to understand the whole progression system, because I'm still confused about the idea of people in the Twitch chat, at least, are like, the runes, don't even worry about them, basically, in the DLC. Yeah. You got to focus completely on Erdtree blessings at this point?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
which is apparently pronounced Shadow Tree.
What?
We learned on the Deepest Dive. Yeah, that's supposedly.
Really?
It's like an alternate spelling. But we just ended up calling them Erdtree the whole time.
It's much more fun to say. It's way better. Yeah. Okay.
I just like the variations in spellings of it that are coming out. Everybody's spelling it differently, and I'm like, it's Erdtree to people like in my chat. Everyone's like just butchering it entirely.
Whatever. Okay, so what is this system? I haven't played any From Software DLC before. Is this like a normal strategy for them, is to have a completely different progression system for DLC? It's so weird.
I think due to the sheer variety of playstyles and builds and leveling systems and stuff, leveling caps, in the base game, because there's always this unspoken like meta leveling thing for PvP in FromSoft games. It's like, oh, we won't go above level 100 because then we can do PvP properly. There's nothing official to cement this in any way, but yeah, everyone has such varied levels for the end game for Elden Ring and varied builds that they went, okay, we're going to scale everything to make people roughly around the same damage amount and like defense amount so that everybody's sort of on a level playing field for this. And then the Erdtree fragments are used to upgrade your health and your defense and your attack. So it means you can take more damage and deal more damage. And it makes a drastic difference. So kind of see it as like adding it. If you've played Sekiro, it's very, very similar to Sekiro's leveling system.
Okay.
But yeah, I lost like 400k runes the other day, and I was like, it's fine. I just need another scatter tree fragment.
It seems like
those are the most valuable thing. Those are the things to get excited about when you come across them.
Yeah, you see a cross across the map, and you're like, I shall head over there, and you just like set off on an adventure just to get this little crumb of leveling power. So
it seems like so simple for some pretty complex systems in Elden Ring. I'm just like, you just go around and find these little Skadu tree things on the, or like in the world, and then pop it, and it just pops your health and attack up the end. Like it's so clean.
Well, it became very apparent when I started the DLC, because my build, my community knows I always go for glass cannon builds. It's just how I am. I'm like high damage, very little health, because if you don't get hit, you won't die kind of vibes. So when I went in, everyone was like, oh, you're doing like the same damage as me-ish. But then when I was in like out of the realm of shadow, I do massive amounts of damage to things. So they definitely scaled things quite nicely, because if I'd have gone into the DLC with my current build, I'd probably be just absolutely annihilated by things, but also doing all the damage. And I think they wanted to try and give people a fairly similar starting point, because it's such a big expansion as well. It's like a whole game in itself. Yeah. So it's not like there's 4 bosses and that's it done kind of thing like previous FromSoft expansions. It's huge. And the more even the starting point is, the better they can cater to everybody as a whole throughout the experience without people blasting through certain stuff and being like, it's too easy.
Right.
So
right. It has to be so cool.
Now
we're
getting the opposite problem.
Right. Okay. So I've heard really just whispers of this online. What is everybody screaming about? Everyone's screaming, this is seriously too hard. Let's review bomb this game because of it. That seems so odd at this point in From Software's library.
I have noticed very little online because I have a lot of terms muted because I don't want to be spoiled.
Smart.
But what I have seen, it seems like it's the, to put it bluntly, the fanboys, the get good crowd, the people that are wanting the true FromSoft experience are like, I don't want to use these scatter tree fragments. Like, what are these here for? I'm going to level my way through this experience. And that's not how the experience is intended to be. And then they're finding it too hard.
And then review bombing it because of that?
Yeah. That's from what I can gather, insane. From what I've seen, very limited like stuff, but that's what I have seen.
Ben, you're trying to apply logic to something here,
but
that
like
it can't be.
But ultimately. If they're a fan of like the systems of these games, it's like, here's the new system, and there's like, no, we reject thine system. Like that's not a strategy for tackling new content from software.
Yeah, I saw a meme this morning that summed it up really well. That was like, these people get really mad when people use the Mimic tier and the Taiki, Black Shadow, Black Assassin, Taiki, whatever her name is. I love her to bits. She's great. And they're like, you didn't play this game properly. And then the other part of the meme is them crying and being like, these aren't real upgrades about the scatter tree fragments. It's like, this isn't how the game is intended to be played. And it's like, it makes no sense. It's
these aren't microtransactions. Like this is designed into the game. I'm gonna ring that bell to bring that Mimic tier every time that icon shows up on screen. Like that is the first thing I do.
Yeah, if they didn't want you using it, they'd nerf it even more. You know, like they weren't afraid to change how it worked initially. But yeah, there's always a small group of like a vocal minority, isn't there? Anytime there's any kind of discourse about anything online, it's always just a small group of very loud people. And just speaking from my community's experience, I've got everybody all over the scale of some people are finding it way too hard right at the start. Some people have smashed through the whole thing and not really had any issues.
Yeah.
It's the age-old problem of FromSoft games are difficult and there's no real way to change the difficulty beyond leveling, and because they've removed the weight of using runes for things, people are finding it a lot harder, I think.
Yeah, that's so wonky. So Steve Evolution wrote in, just to jump in a little bit early with one community question. Steve Evolution says, hey everybody, given the sheer scope and size of Shadow of the Erdtree, do we think it's an automatic candidate for Game of the Year 2024? Kyle, I don't know how you're feeling about this, spending more time with this. I don't know if you're falling more and more in love with this thing, but...
no, absolutely. It can totally be a contender. Like, I guess their question isn't if it's a contender. It's like, is it already like taking the lead? kind of, right? I guess.
I think it's a little bit of everything. Do we think it's an automatic candidate for a game of the year?
It is absolutely a candidate. Yeah. For sure. But I don't know. We'll see. But like, it is always going to be. I'm not going to be as passionate about DLC that I really like as I am for like a dragon or something, you know, something new and wholly original, where like, as much as I am really liking Erdtree a lot, I don't know if it's going to be like, they did it again, this has to be number one. I don't know if I feel that way about it. Right?
Yeah. Ellie, that's so cool that you get to experience like the spoiler-free version of it this time around. And it's also just From Software firing with all the knowledge that they have of game design at this point for this crystallized experience for Erdtree. Like, it just seems like a best case scenario for sinking your teeth into this thing.
It's funny that you say that, though, because there's been like reports from interviews with Miyazaki coming out recently that are like, he had no idea that people want to play the whole game and co-op together. You know, like they're still learning things. And like, there's also been reports of him saying he wants to expand on like Bloodborne and Sekiro's combat system for the next game. And he's still working towards the best version of an RPG that he can make. And like, I like it when a developer isn't afraid to continue something, but also to revisit older things and mesh it with something new. And it very much seems like he's just like, okay, I've done this now. Let's see what else we can make. And that's kind of nice. And Shadow of the Erdtree falls somewhere in between the brand new and the continuation, I found.
Yeah, so it is funny to think of like Miyazaki's, unique presence on the internet, where he will not be in videos. You can take a picture of him in certain situations, but very delicate. And it's also just how humble he is at the same time. Look, I'm sure he's tough to work with in his own way and all that stuff. But it's just weird to think of like him being still like, hey, I still got a lot of room to grow, a lot of lessons still to learn game design wise. Whereas if he was plugged in and just seeing all this praise of him online every day, maybe he'd have a different attitude about the whole thing.
I remember going to a Dark Souls 3 presentation at E3 and not realizing it was him doing the presentation, like behind closed doors.
Right.
And I was like, after I came out, I think it was a former GI editor who's now at Bandai Namco these days, Dan Tack, was like, yeah, that was Miyazaki. And I was like, that jovial Japanese man was the guy that made like Dark Souls. Like I did not realize that's who we were talking with right there. It was very funny. Yeah, because I don't know what I expected. I just some emo goth guy.
I think you're expecting like Igarashi from Castlevania, of him to be wearing leather and have a whip or some weird
Have you seen the Miyazaki bus meme with the two Miyazakis, the Ghibli one and the FromSoft one?
Yes.
And the Ghibli one's looking really sad, looking out the window at the sunshine, and the FromSoft one is looking really happy, looking at like the awful rock face on the other side. Like,
their art versus really their personality.
Yeah.
That kind of situation.
Yeah. It is so funny. Yeah, I got to visit From Software twice for Sekiro and Dark Souls 3, and like my takeaway from interacting with Miyazaki there is just, oh, he's just like a D&D nerd. That's all that's going on. You're obviously incredibly smart, not trying to diminish what a brilliant designer he is and everything. But like, you go into his office and it's just like, oh, he just has bookshelves and bookshelves of D&D monsters and all this stuff. It's like, okay, I think I get this guy's vibe at this point. He's not exactly the rock star you might want him to be. But Shadow of the Erdtree, if people want to watch you stream it, Ellie, where should they go?
Twitch.tv/Ellie Joy Panic.
Awesome. Piece of cake. Hey, Janet.
Ben, I want to ask you real quick.
Yes, sir.
Do you think you're going to keep playing Erdtree? Because I know you were like, you're in a weird position where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to play. And then you did play. And you're like, oh, this is good. Do you think you'll see it to the end?
It is funny. Yeah, to go back and have like one bite of this dessert that I thought I was over and be like, oh, you know what? Pumpkin pie with whipped cream on top is really good, but then I'm looking at the rest of that pie and it's a lot to consume. So I'll probably do a couple more streams. Like if this dancing line is as much of a brick wall as I think it is, I'm probably out. But at the same time, like I just need to get used to the new progression system, and I need to personally stop leaving such negative reviews all over the internet for this game because I refuse to understand.
Oh, that was you.
That was actually me. Sorry, everybody. So
can I break your heart a little bit real quick? I beat the dancing line first try.
Jesus Christ!
You can do it, yeah.
All right, but that's your whole shtick, is you're good at these games and you play really hard things. I'm a baby boy.
It was like, she got to play it ahead of time. And I was like, I had like 4 attempts on this. I had like 25 minutes playing Shadow of the Erdtree, and 15 minutes of that was just twirling around with the new weapons. You know, like I had no time at all on it.
That was a preview.
Yes, okay. Summer Games Fest. I managed to snag an appointment with them. So
nice. That's cool.
I struggled with them, Ben. I don't know if that makes you feel any better. It took me a number of tries.
Yeah.
No, it's been a wall for a lot of people. Like, you've got this though.
Yeah. I'm glad I could fall back a little bit in love with Elden Ring, but I don't know if I'm committed to I'm seeing this through the end. But that's what the deepest dive is for, Kyle, because you all are going to be convening again a month from now to have the follow episode where we cover everything else that's happening in the game. So it's going to be on MinnMax's YouTube channel. You can check it out there. Janet Garcia. Hello. Welcome back to Elden Ring Talk. Do you remember 2022?
Yeah, how could I forget?
It's a lovely time. Also,
y'all run out there and you tell me what you see, and I'm gonna be here looking from afar. You know?
Yeah, can do. I need to ask you. Do you know how this whole thing operates?
No, but I think you're about to tell me.
I will tell you. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. You find the tier there that's sustainable for you and that keeps this whole independent operation sustainable on our end. But a special shout out to some of our biggest supporters. I'm talking about people like HelloFresh. And the beautiful thing about HelloFresh, Haley, is it's not people. This is actual food that you eat. It's not interested. Sorry. They have a new human flesh variant for HelloFresh. I don't know if that's interesting.
Ellie doesn't have any of the context of this.
I was thinking about
oh, sorry, that's
video game reference.
Sorry, we should explain, Ellie. Haley's a cannibal, and it's been a whole thing we've been dealing with for years. But HelloFresh, everybody. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that is why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. Kyle, you like cooking, right?
I do it multiple times a day.
I feel better about my life in general. And look, this isn't the gospel truth out there, but I just feel better when I have HelloFresh in my fridge. It feels like if you're playing a tough game, let me make a cool gamer analogy, but you got like a mega elixir in your pocket. You have the ultimate healing thing of just like, I feel like I got something magical chambered of like, I don't need to stress about picking out ingredients, going shopping. I got everything pre-portioned, ready to go in my fridge, and I pop it and I eat that sweet meal from HelloFresh, Kyle, and my health bar doubles. It's as good as can be.
What if someone says you're eating wrong, though, and that you didn't have the real meal in the intended way?
People are review bombing.
You weren't supposed to use a fork, Ben.
Come on, you're doing it wrong.
Your claws in your fists and eat it like that.
Fake ass eater boy. Anyways,
what's going on with this read?
I don't know. You can cut down on time, spend in the kitchen. You can get back to enjoying the summer sunshine. They want you to know at HelloFresh. Thanks to the quick and easy recipes. Here's the thing. You can go to HelloFresh.com/MinnMaxApps for free appetizers for life, as long as you're signed up with HelloFresh. So 1 appetizer item per box while the subscription is active. That's free appetizers for life at HelloFresh.com/MinnMaxApps. And I love HelloFresh. I'd love to keep them around as a sponsor. So if you're on the fence, you can jump in, go to that URL, it's in the description below, and check out HelloFresh. Also, thank you to our friends at I'm 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about the new vinyl they have, Joystick Jazz. The Blue Shift Big Band plays iconic video game hits. Vinyl soundtrack, Volume 1 and Volume 2, available at I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store. It has music from the greatest game soundtracks of all time. Grim Fandango, Kingdom Hearts, Sonic the Hedgehog, Ocarina of Time, Kyle. And your favorite track from that soundtrack, of course, is...
The windmill theme.
The windmill theme. I don't know if that one's on here in particular, but some track is from the Ocarina of Time soundtrack. So check it out, everybody. You can go to I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store and use the promo code TOUCHGRASS. TOUCHGRASS for 10% off of everything in I'm 8-Bit's wonderful online store. So check it out. Help support I'm 8-Bit because they have supported MinnMax in a big way for many years, and they are quite cool. And please help support I'm 8-Bit because they are so cool. They support the MinnMax community directly by shipping out a prize each and every week to whoever has the best community question. So Ellie, we need your help here, remembering each and every question, and whichever question makes the show better, clearly, that person is going to win the 7-inch vinyl for the Super Mario Brothers movie soundtrack, thanks to I'm 8-Bit. So are you ready for this? The pressure's on. We need to find the absolute best question in this entire stack.
He'll go over them again at the end. Don't worry.
Maybe I won't. Remember. This is hard mode for Ellie. We're not going to go over it again. She needs to remember each and every question no matter what.
Elden Ring notebook out.
But it brings the rest of us joy. Robbie Flanagan writes in. They say, greetings, everybody. What single sound or tone in gaming most drastically hits the happy spot in your brain? A level up chime, unlocking an achievement. For me, I think it's the original Final Fantasy VII fanfare sound effect. It's one of the best, most beloved sounds that never fails to make me happy. But yeah, they say, thanks for the weekly audio brain massage. Ooh. So are you saying the MinnMax Show podcast is the one that hits you in your happy spot? I'm confused, Robbie. Huh. But yeah, the most satisfying little sound in gaming.
I love when Zenyatta sucks all his orbs up. He goes, and then he goes, and he shoves them all out, and everyone's a headshot, and it goes ding, 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 ding. And it's the best sound ever.
That sounds good.
Yeah, the multiplayer aspect. I didn't even consider that. Like, I just think of some single player stuff. But when you know that you're making other people's lives worse because of this sound effect, I feel like
that's all about. Corner, and I deleted them, and they probably went, "Oh, what the hell?" Yeah,
that's pretty good.
For me, it's Legend of Zelda new item.
Okay, the old classic.
Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Or from a lot of stuff,
Yeah, it's always.
I was thinking smaller, like just like sound effect. Like there's a lot in Yoshi's Island specifically that are like just specific Yoshi noises that just make me happy. It's
Yoshi's got a baby cry one.
Yeah. Wait, I think that maybe that's why I love all the happy sound effects so much, because there is such a terrible sad sound effect in that game that you just want to avoid at all costs.
Now, where do you stand on the GBA version of Yoshi's Island, where they added a lot of Yoshi sounds, like his and all those sounds and whatnot? The boing hop. Pro?
No, Con. Get out of here.
Oh wow, interesting. Okay, clean. I was surprised. Playing Monkey Ball, when you play as Sonic, I forgot to mention.
Banana Rumble?
Yeah, the banana was it Banana Mania?
Is it called Banana Rumble?
I think it's Banana Rumble. It's an unforgettable name. There's no doubt about it. But when you play as Sonic, instead of bananas that you're picking up on the courses, you're picking up rings, and it's obvious. I understand that, but still, it's funny that in the year 2024, I can play that and be like, oh, that's right. I really used to love Sonic as a kid. Like, hearing that ring sound effect is still really satisfying.
Can you do it right now? I want to hear it.
Yeah, I think it goes something like this.
Nice.
That was pretty solid.
It wasn't
not gonna lie.
You're all being nice. I don't think it's that good, but I think
you're gonna add it in post, aren't you? You're gonna add the sound in post. I'm just gonna go, whoa.
I need to fix the Yoshi one in post, by the way. That one.
Yeah, it was also spot on. But this is a dorky deep cut. But I think the sound effect that makes me happiest is Sunset Riders Arcade, the coin sound effect. For that old cowboy game of when you pop in a quarter or when you just hit start in the beginning, it just goes, yippee! And it's like this dumb cowboy thing, but it makes me feel like I'm 8 years old in the summertime at the arcade playing Sunset Riders. It's so good. Ellie, is one jump out for you?
You got a new item in Ooblets sound where it goes blah, 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 blah.
I think that's a probe droid from Star Wars. I don't think I've ever heard that before, but it sounds great. Let's see. Victor Pham writes in and says, do y'all feel FOMO if you can't be part of the current discourse surrounding a new game?
I mean, that's why we all do this, right? It's kind of the main reason.
Oh, we also, again, we're the same, Kyle. 7 to my Luigi's Mansion, which is actually a hotel. But we'll get into that later when you play the third game and fall in love with it. But I actually enjoy when I can't, because it gives me because other times it's like, it's a personal failure, right? Like, oh, I didn't get to it. Sorry. Like, I just didn't make the time, or I didn't finish it. And it's like, damn, like I wanted to, and I should have. Like something like, fighting games. Elden Ring to a degree. Again, I dabble in some of those. I always try those, so that's kind of like a gray area. But when something I'm like, nope, I know from announcement, I'm not going to play this. It's off my plate. Someone else take it and go. Yeah. I get to recuse myself. And I like that, because there's so many other things where like it is up my alley and there's not really like almost an excuse not to be involved. But here it's like, y'all don't want to hear from me on what I think of Tekken. I wouldn't know it if you paid me to tell you an interesting thought on Tekken. I quite literally.
See, you're like the only person I would want to hear talk about Tekken.
I say that. There is something kind of like fascinating, right? It's like what could happen, but I would just have nothing to say. So it's like, this is all somebody else. And I kind of like that. The freedom of being excluded.
But what about if it's a game you know you're really going to like and life's just too busy? Like you're like, oh, can't wait to play that. And I'll play that in a month.
Like for me, again, you were kind of right to that point. Like I would never be too busy, at least in this current configuration.
Always make time.
The fighting game example is a good one because I am completely susceptible to it. Where like Animal Crossing was a big one for me. That game has just never clicked with me. I've played the GameCube one, I played the DS ones. Like we're
not the same. Never mind.
I know. I realize that's like a strange opinion, but like when Animal Crossing came out on Switch, early pandemic, and it was just like the most important thing in everyone's life. I was just like, this is gonna fix me, and I'm gonna be happy, and like I need to play this. And I played it for like an hour or two, and I was like, I knew what this was gonna be. I don't know why I convinced myself it was gonna be something different. Lot
specifically, I enjoy the ride every time, though. I too am also still not happy despite playing Animal Crossing, so don't worry.
Okay. But fighting games are a big one. Like Street Fighter 6 last year, and I was like, you know what? Maybe this is the one. It wasn't. I mean,
yeah. The fear of missing out thing. Like I'm missing out on conversations. I think I always want to stay on top of like what people are saying about new games and old games and all that stuff online. But I don't think I have that instinct. I don't think of like, I need to talk about this game even if I'm not really passionate about it. Like no matter what, I need to get my thought out there. I feel like a lot of that comes down to social media for me. Of just kind of like, if I don't tweet about this thing, it's fine. No one's gonna come knocking at my door saying, where was your take on this movie? You haven't weighed in yet on this big cultural debate. What do you think about something? There's a rap feud.
Space Jam?
Yeah, what do you think about Space Jam? That's exactly it.
Also, I was embarrassed because I liked your tweet like 1 minute after you posted. I'm like, Ben's probably gonna think that I have this open at all times.
Janet, based on how often you tweet, I do think you have Twitter open at all times.
It's a lot of the time. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'm like, I just happened to open it and it was there.
Trust me, I did not judge you in the least at that moment. But
see, I feel like I've been conditioned to actively avoid discourse, and therefore I don't get any kind of like. I'm like, oh, there's a discourse happening? Like, what? And that's liberating.
It's so
like
nice.
I've not had notifications on for social media for like 8 years at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's bliss. It's so peaceful. Like I would highly recommend just not engaging.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, Jacob Geller talks about it a lot, and it is very much the case of like the part that you miss the least is just the highlighting of dip out there. It's like, look, there's this really stupid wrong person over here. It's like, that is so much of social media. It's even true. In some big cases with big Twitch streamers, it's like, I'm never going to learn who this idiot is. If he's gone, good riddance. See you in hell, buddy. Like, I just do not want to even engage.
Where are you in hell?
Why are you going there with him? Yeah, what'd you do?
Oh, well, I don't know. I want to swing by a little bit. I mean, you get bored in heaven. Everyone wants to see a little bit of hell. I think that's natural. Let's see.
Ben started the Space Jam discourse.
That's I regret it.
Yeah, that's true.
Forbin, I tweeted that I didn't like Taz's lemony fresh line in Space Jam. I think it's stupid.
Okay.
And
I lost my mind when I watched
that this morning, and I was like, I didn't realize that. Not that I didn't realize that was you, but like I just don't read things on social media, and I saw it, and I was like, huh. And then just carried on. Like, that is my level of like, I just see a take, and I'm like, good for you. And then I just don't engage.
And it's exactly, you're right. And that's why I've slowed down on tweeting so much. Because like, what do I want somebody to have a reaction of? It'd be somebody like you being like, all right there, buddy. Like that's like the best I can do. But instead
honestly,
it's
every
people,
time the things come up where it's like, what opinions got you like this? And I'm like, I'm just not using Twitter for 4 days. Like, I'm just not going to do it because this comes around like once a month. And, would you look at that? It's just nice and quiet.
I think every year we need to collectively sunset a meme and like a configuration. And definitely the what take has you like this. Every version of that, like, I'm done. It's boring. Like, the takes are never interesting. The conversations are dry. Like, I'm so tired of it.
Yeah.
But maybe that's mine, I guess. I don't know. But I'm not going to do the
meme.
Yeah. You guys got to be a podcast form. But I'm not going to make that picture. I'm almost inclined to search my own account, find if I ever participated in that meme, and just delete it. Just to really cleanse.
I have them
the
muted now. I just mute the terms and then they don't come up anymore.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
A good term mute. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Forbin writes in and says, Ellie, How did you go from having no viewers to becoming a successful streamer? Or did you have a built-in following when you started from other endeavors? Yeah, you mentioned, the birthday stream was big for you, but how have you grown your audience since then?
It comes and goes in waves. Honestly, like when I first started out, I had a Twitter following that I could kind of use, but even then it was like not that many people. I think I got like 12 viewers on my first stream, which is big for a first stream, but not in terms of like a full-time content creator. And I went through the whole niching and like climbing the ladder and networking. And, I found that it doesn't work for me. So a big part of what I do now, after I got partnered on Twitch, I pivoted from doing a Bloodborne challenge run to playing Nier Replicant. And I saw my view count go down to 10% of what it was. And then they never came back. So I went from like being in over 100 to like 10 to 15 people, having just got partnered on Twitch. And that was 3.5 years ago now. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to start fresh and build a community space that is for community and not chase trends, not try and burn myself out by like doing everything under the sun to grow. And now I just vibe. And if people want to hang out, that's okay. And I know that I'm very fortunate and incredibly privileged to be in the situation that I'm in right now, and have that like, it's not a lack of responsibility. It's I have a partner with a very good job, so I can afford to experiment, essentially. Right. And yeah, I just hang out and play video games and try and make a space that people would want to hang out in if they like that sort of thing. But you have to understand that your content isn't for everyone. And now I'm trying to help others feel comfortable feeling that way as well, and prioritizing themselves and their health and their enjoyment over the numbers. So yeah.
The whole networking thing and how it's not for you. Like what would that look like? Is that just going to TwitchCon and teaming up for like, I don't know, streams where you rate each other's channels, or like how would that really benefit in a big way to network to grow on Twitch?
It used to be things like joining streams that I wasn't necessarily vibing with, particularly people that had like questionable practices and morals and things. And, you if you find somewhere that supports you, loosely supports you, they're not always going to be the kind of people that will gel with your community in particular. But a lot of people will stick in those kinds of situations to boost their numbers and grow off the back of that. So there's a lot of like hopping between streams, maybe joining teams that are people that aren't necessarily sharing your values and stuff. And there's such a variety of content on Twitch that you will find your people eventually. And it's honestly not worth following and trying to suck up to the people that you don't gel with in the long run, because it's only going to harm you. So I've never been to TwitchCon. I'm going for the first time this year.
Oh, right on.
But a lot of it is just like being in other people's streams and being like, oh my God, hey, hi, it's me. Hi, I've been streaming this recently kind of thing. And it doesn't always come across as like ass kissing, but I had a very stark reminder when I switched my games after getting partnered that everybody isn't there for you, and they're not there to support you. They're there to grow themselves. Because a lot of people stopped showing up and stopped talking to me because my views were so low in comparison. So yeah, the networking is rough and not a sustainable way of doing things if you want to grow organically with a solid foundation. That's not to say that like niching is a valid way of doing things and doing the networking is a valid way of doing things. Like it absolutely is if you have the mental fortitude to keep doing it. And as a chronically ill human being, I can't do that. So,
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is maybe too big and broad of a question, but I was struck by this, and take this in the spirit in which it's intended. But, I heard a lot of praise for you, and it's like, okay, Twitch streamer, got it. And then when I reached out and you sent an email back to me of like, okay, here's my schedule and I'm interested in talking about these things. And my takeaway was like, this is shockingly professional. Like, what is her secret? And I was like, well, what was my barometer for a Twitch streamer? I guess I was thinking you would just jump in and be like, whatever, I'll jump in, blah. And it was like a level of professionalism that came through in that email. And I'm wondering how much like that professional background working in the game industry has helped you grow on Twitch in this modern era.
It's definitely aided me for sure. Like, it means that I can do things like go to Summer Games Fest and pitch myself professionally and meet people and go to appointments and dinners. And, you know, I went to not only represent myself, but my stream team too. And I realized when I was there, I was like, am I an influencer manager? Like, you know, it was bizarre to kind of have that revelation while I was there. But I feel like I've always naturally been good at marketing. It's something that I've not struggled. Like, I didn't go to school for it or anything. I learned all of this off my own back. I don't have a degree at all. I'm self-taught in the ways of Twitter and other things. And I think it's just experience in that regard helps, you know. But what I attribute my growth and perceived success to more than professionalism, I guess. And it kind of, it's like a partner thing to the professionalism, is I'm not in this to grow myself in a fame and fortune way. I am in this to give back to the gaming community. I'm in this to help other creators. I'm in this to help devs out and highlight them and spotlight them and to raise up diverse voices within the gaming space and support people that have amazing initiatives and who are saying incredible things to help improve the space and, you know, create more variety and highlight different voices that wouldn't necessarily get heard. Like, that's why I do what I do. And it was funny that you mentioned the Game Informer lot. Yeah. I was just there to be a nerd and like hang out with people. And it just so happened that I went to certain press appointments and it was like, oh, you did this thing? And then we talk about that and not actually do the thing that we were supposed to be doing, you know, like, because I ultimately would much rather make meaningful connections in a non-networking, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of way. Right. And like actually have genuine relationships with people where you can have a conversation that's not about the work, because that means more to me getting to know the people behind the product and then finding what entertains them and what they want to see pushed and stuff and helping with that side. So that is kind of why there is the professionalism, yes, but there's also this passion that comes through to join on to that, where I'm not in this to be big and famous. So yeah.
Yeah, no, well put. Dr. Rock has a follow-up question. Do y'all have any thoughts on Claire Obscure Expedition 33? To me, it was the most interesting game shown at Xbox's showcase, but I haven't seen a ton of people talk about it. The historical French art style and premise are really drawing me in. Yeah, we didn't talk about it on the MinnMax show, but this was shown during the Summer Game... No, this was Xbox's showcase.
I think it was Xbox's, yeah.
Yeah, the Expedition 33, where... It looked cool. It was an intriguing premise of there's a big number in the sky and whatever number it is, everybody who's that age dies. Where it's like, okay, you know what? That's an angle that I'm curious to see what that story's like in this game. And then when they showed the combat is like turn-based classic JRPG stuff, that was just setting the hook. Where it's like, okay, yes, Expedition 33 is on my radar for sure at this point.
I was sort of watching and I was like, cool. And then when they showed combat, I was like, I'm in. I want to play this. Like that was the turning point for sure.
Yeah, I'm not normally a turn-based person, and I was like, this looks rad. So
right.
I found the mechanical presentation a little confusing. Like, I liked the UI and the style and the sort of lore and the vibes of what I was being shown, but I was really confused on like, wait, so it's not turn-based. It's turn-based. It's not turn-based. And the description is it's turn-based RPG with real-time mechanics. And I just found
real-time mechanics.
I was confused on what I was looking at, and even now, I still don't know what I'm looking at. I'm still might be down for it, but I think that was part of my takeaway. But it definitely was, I think, at least to me, one of the more intriguing things I saw. But because I didn't know what I was seeing, I'm like, I don't really have a lot to say yet.
Yeah. I wonder if it'll be like similar to the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 combat system where it's like you get the chain attack type thing where it's like it's real time until it isn't, and then you get to strategize for like big combos and stuff potentially.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard from a couple people. Like a few people made that comparison, but then I was like, oh, I don't know Xenoblade. So I'm just kind of still just like in the abyss with this title, but excited to see more. Published by Kepler Interactive, and like a publisher is not the same as like, you know, a developer, but I do feel like there's that element of curation to publishing, and I've liked other titles from Kepler, so that also kind of gives me some excitement about it.
Yes, the developer is Sandfall Interactive, and it's a bunch of former Ubisoft developers in France. Seems to be kind of the folks leading that squad there. But I just, as a marketing dork, I'm fascinated by the idea of Xbox currently promoting Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, and then also 33 Immortals. That game from the Spiritfarer developers. But like, what a weird coincidence that they're like pushing 233 games.
33 is just like trending right now. It's the outer huge. World's wild.
Yeah, it's exactly
our generation.
Oh no.
Okay, this is an odd one. Matthew Goss writes in and says, "Hey everybody, I have a question for the Xbox owning cohorts on the podcast. How many games have you purchased for your Xbox? I bought an Xbox last year around Starfield's launch, and I realized that because of Game Pass, I've never actually purchased a game for my Xbox, which feels pretty weird."
Me neither.
Me neither.
I heard the question.
It's odd. I know there's a lot to talk about for the economics of Xbox and where they're at and all this stuff, and how Game Pass has changed our, valuation of games and stuff. But I'm fascinated by, we do a bunch of code giveaways at MinnMax for like, hey, if you support us on Patreon, you can get codes. We literally have hundreds and hundreds of codes for like Xbox indie games and some big indies and stuff. And it's bizarre to me that like we have too many codes to give away. We had to start being like, if you support us on Patreon, we'll give you 3 codes. And we still can't keep up. Like, it just seems like with Game Pass, people who have Xbox are like, I don't really want any more games. I'm fine. Which is a tough business model, I'd have to imagine. It's really strange. So I don't know if at some point we do like a code giveaway of, I'll give you 300 Xbox codes. I don't know what we have to do here.
Starfield 300 times.
Ooh, yes, Janet, 33 Xbox codes. We can tie it all together. It'll be perfect. But yeah, it's just weird situation. Tokyo Game Life writes in and says, quiz for everybody. How many copies do you think 2022's Nintendo Switch Sports has sold? Nintendo Switch Sports.
What was Luigi's Mansion again?
Luigi's Mansion was 14 million. Yeah, so point of comparison here. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is 7.5 million. Splatoon 3 is 12 million. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is 25 million. So how many copies has Nintendo Switch Sports sold? The HD version of Wii Sports, basically.
3 million.
10 million.
Okay,
I'm going to say 10. I think it's more than we think.
3, 10,
I was going to say 6.
3, 10, 10, 6. More than I think. 13.1 million copies for that thing.
Wow.
That's like, I think that game is probably like, if you're a casual Switch person, you grab Mario Kart and you're like, oh, and they have a new sports one? Oh yeah, let's get that too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess so. Effect. Like, I don't know, like kind of just throw it on the pile. Like, I'm at Target.
Yeah.
What are we feeling? There's only like 4 games to choose. Like, I could see that.
It's like, hey, remember tennis? Like,
yeah.
But I think this is the worst because it was in the doldrums of Nintendo with the Wii U. I understand that. But I just think of when they released Wii Sports HD on the Wii U, and wasn't it like there were free-to-play aspects of it or something?
Yeah, it was
but like
weird.
It just felt like it was an absolute zero. And I thought like if there's any nostalgia for Wii Sports, it's going to come through with some people caring about this. And it was nada. And so then this version came out.
Wii Sports Resorts though? Because that one slapped. That was a good one.
It sold a ton. Yeah,
that was on the Wii, right? Like that was like a
product.
That was when Wii Motion Plus was getting.
Yeah, I feel like all of those sold like a cajillion copies.
Oh my god. Yeah. So
and they're like, "Don't you want to do it again?" And everyone's like, "Nah." Which is also probably why they don't have Nintendo. People would say like, "When's Nintendo's coming back?" And I think if they brought it back, it would be the sports effect. No, I think people would be over it.
Oh,
really? Oh, I don't know. I feel like it would be vague.
So Wii Sports Resort,
there'd be like 4 copies in this house alone. I think.
You'd buy some for your dogs.
I guess maybe that is more of an appeal. But like, what was different? Like, I didn't get into Wii Sports. Like, what do y'all think changed?
Oh, it opened up video games to a whole new group.
No, but I mean, why did the sports not no one cares now? Like, what happened? Just like
so I bought the new one.
It was fun.
I bought this Switch Wii Sports.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I played it for one night. And then I dressed up as Tingle and did it for charity, dressed as Tingle. And those are the 2 times I've played that game.
That sounds awesome.
It was the same as before, except for now there is sword fighting. Like,
yeah.
And even then, I think that they released it at the wrong time. I think if they'd have been like, hey, here's all the classic Wii Sports games, here's a bunch of new Wii Sports games, here's some from Wii Sports Resort, kind of like a remix, like a Mario Party style thing. But yeah, they just sort of went, here's 4 games and we'll give you another one in 6 to 12 months. Yeah. And it was a bizarre choice, honestly.
Yeah, being in like early access and waiting for basketball to drop is a weird state for a game to be in. But again, if it's selling 13 million copies,
I'll just turn on my Wii and play that.
So to answer your question, Haley, Wii Sports Resort sold 33.14 million units. That is so ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah. Weird.
Chet says they think the lack of Mii's.
Yeah, they changed the Mii's and it's disastrous. Yeah, so no one.
Although you can call yourself daddy now, which that's good.
They should have led with that.
Wait,
also,
what?
I'm shocked at how little Kirby sold.
Yeah.
No one cared about Kirby?
Well, it was forgotten. Matt Bruin writes in and says, typically...
No missed jokes here.
Try and nail us on a missed joke, I dare you. So Matt Bruin writes in and says, typically, when people talk about fan communities, they're often listed as the reason why some people avoid a piece of media. What about the opposite? Has there been a situation for you where you became interested in a franchise because of the fan community? For me, it would be the Yakuza / Like a Dragon community. The memes and jokes, everything seemed to... They were all having the time of their lives, they say. Maybe want to join in on the fun. Yeah, good question. Positive fan communities that lured you in.
I wouldn't say it's positive, but that for me was FromSoft.
Yeah.
I was like, why do all these boys hate everybody? Like, what is happening? Why are all these boys angry on the internet about this video game that's really hard? And I started playing Bloodborne and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I never looked back. And it's like a reverse gatekeeping. I'm like, I saw everybody trying to gatekeep and I was like, I want to be in that and I want to like break those gates open. So yeah, I'm playing FromSoft games out of spite.
Smart. I mean, obviously there's a million crappy fans for all the big franchises and stuff, but I forgot how funny even like the in-game community is for Elden Ring. Like all of those messages, okay, we're all sick of Tri-Finger Butthole, we got the idea. But like still, like those messages will still make me laugh on a regular basis, and it just adds such a fun layer of comedy that I, again, forgot about how much I loved in the base Elden Ring.
I had one the other day that made me like laugh, like audibly laugh out loud on stream, like cackle, because I like was running around a little cliff thing and I like saw a note and I looked down and saw like a big crab at the bottom of this hill and I opened the note and it said prawn and I was like, good job.
Thank you.
Stuff like that. It's just unintentional comedy a lot of the time as well. It's great.
I think when you find a note that's like false wall and then you hit the wall with your sword and it's actually a false wall, that is somehow more exciting than like if you had just hit the wall by accident and it opened up, because you're like, someone wasn't lying to me.
Well, yeah, because you're so used to the liar ahead. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think it was for welcoming communities was Monster Hunter. Like when we did those cover stories back at Game Informer and posting that coverage, like the community was so sweet. And I remember talking to Capcom about it, and it was interesting where they're like, yeah, you know, the fighting game community for our fighting games, they're a little aggressive, but there's something about like shifting from that competitive game community to the cooperative nature of Monster Hunter where it lends itself to a more friendly, welcoming community because they're all helping each other in the game instead of trying to tear each other's throats out and stuff, you know? So that made getting into World a little bit easier. Graham Walker writes in, says, hey, Minners, Maxers, and all of you in between. Thank you, Graham. It seems apt with Shadow of the Erdtree dropping, but for me, I recently completed the Outer Wilds DLC, which was a wonderful, magical, horrifying experience, just as good as the base game for me. Ellie, what's that face?
I love Outer Wilds so much.
Oh, God. Okay, good.
You've touched on another special interest right now. Like.
Got it. They say, but outside of the Reddit community, I just don't really hear people talk about this, or generally other DLCs, really. Do you think DLCs generally struggle to make an impact? culturally? And if so, why?
No. I think, in particular, I think the Outer Wilds DLC is one of those that nobody wants to talk about it beyond you need to play it, because the whole thing with Outer Wilds is like the more you know, the less you can play, and the joy is in the discovery. But having worked on a lot of releases for DLCs and things, I think it's expansions and DLCs are usually incredibly resonant and relevant within the community of the game, and it's there for them. It's an expansion on the content that they want to see. So they don't necessarily hit hard in the way that new releases would, like full game releases or continuations of franchises and things like that, because it is an expansion. It is building on what is already there. And it's very rare for an expansion to land outside of the existing audience to draw people in because of that. Like, I'm thinking about like the Witcher expansions made a whole bunch of people go and play the base game because they were just like an entire game in themselves. And I think Shadow of the Erdtree is doing that. The sheer amount of new players we've seen of Elden Ring in the last couple of weeks getting ready for the DLC, and the amount of people that have gone back to the game to help people get DLC ready, all these new players, like, it's amazing. So it's not necessarily that DLCs and expansions are less impactful now. I think it's just intended audience is different to global impact, and the marketing and outreach reflects that, you know?
I mean, I do think it depends on the game, because there's so many DLCs that just become an extra intimidation for like a game that either I didn't play yet, or a game that I liked, but I have to relearn that game. Yeah. And like I end up passing on a lot of them as a result. Like I really don't do a lot of DLC for games even that I love. Like Elden Ring is kind of an exception because it's Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring is on my top 10 favorite games of all time at this point, you know? But beyond that, like, yeah, and it's like you said, it really focuses in on the people who are really enmeshed in there, but like it just doesn't seem to bleed out any further than that anymore. Like I wonder, it seems like the better approach is almost like to do standalone expansions, you know? Yeah. Like I'm more likely to play that like than I am like, oh, go back into your save file and then you can play the DLC.
Yeah, it is funny. I was just thinking about that. The weird, fuzzy, blurry gray line between DLC and expansion terminology. Even when trying to write the description for Shadow of the Erdtree, it's like, it's really just an expansion. And everybody, I think, loves an expansion, whereas DLC, it's a little mixed. We've been dinged a lot with just kind of some cheap, okay, here's a little side project from the team they released in a couple months, it's fine. But expansions feel like events that are almost positively welcomed in the community.
That might be more attributable to like live service games. Like when I think of expansions, I think of like World of Warcraft or Destiny, or you know, like we're adding more content to the thing that's alive and you can play in it at any time. But DLC for me is more like, here is a new chunk of the single player experience that you like. Yeah, for sure.
But when I was writing about the Cyberpunk expansion, it was CD Projekt was very adamant that like, this is an expansion, this isn't DLC. And it's like, I mean, but you have to have the base game. Like you need to have a character, and right? That felt like technically DLC, but CD Projekt was adamant, and it's like, no, this is an expansion. Yeah, and that was a big one. Like that's again kind of an individual sort of unique situation where Cyberpunk was such a a dud at launch, and then this expansion was also like by the way, this thing, we've improved this thing a lot. Come back, everyone, please. Also
the element of like DLC kind of is in the realm of the microtransaction language sphere, and a lot of people want to avoid that, even having that connection. So expansion is a safer way of saying it, I guess. But yeah, I hadn't even thought about it being like live service games tend to have expansions over DLC. I view it as like there's like a threshold in my brain of like size wise, it will reach a point, and then I'm like, this is now an expansion, you know? Yeah. So yeah.
Harrison Holt McHale. Haley, are you sitting down? Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you ready to have an open mind?
Yeah.
Do you have human flesh in your mouth?
Oh.
Okay, good.
I hope no one jumped ahead to the end of this podcast. What's going on?
I guess $5 supporters missed the ad read, so they're probably extra confused. But Harrison Holt McHale writes in and says, hey, has it ever occurred to you that given the extinction of the dinosaurs, the human race lives in a post-apocalyptic world technically? pretty cool, right?
So you gotta watch out who you smoke with, because you might just hear some stuff that you're
I would like to smoke with this person. I like Harrison here. It's a great point, Harrison. Like, we support it.
It would be post-apocalyptic if some dinosaurs were still like, oh, we barely made it. You know, like if it's just a complete wipeout and then something fresh comes about. That's
also, extinction.
Real quick,
that's
extinction. Let's not gloss over how good Haley's dinosaur impression was, because it's like they were here with us.
Well, hang on. I mean, post-apocalyptic, that's like from the Earth's point of view. You don't need like one survivor to be like, technically, post-apocalyptic starts now, right?
It's the post-apocalyptic is always experienced by a sentient being, not the Earth.
I think the Earth's
like,
sentient.
I'm just here, baby. Whatever happens up there, whatever. And we're the ones scrambling as like asteroids hit us or zombies bite us and stuff.
That's true. Remind me to send you another George Carlin bit, by the way, about the Earth will be fine no matter what we do to it, Haley. I felt like a 1,000-year-old man.
Ben keeps slacking me George Carlin bits.
I've never felt older than on Bonus Pod. We're talking about George Carlin. Like, you got to hear this bit about stuff. You'll love it, Haley.
Also, Merriam-Webster is no help in this case. It's a very vague definition. Existing or occurring after a catastrophically destructive disaster or apocalypse. But like, what is?
I think then we need the definition for apocalypse. And I feel like that would be an event that occurs against like a society or a group.
They have a great disaster. They get like a little religious with it. Let's just brush over that aspect. It's a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of excuses, Merriam-Webster. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Confusing.
Ben, have you seen the trailer for the new Robert Zemeckis post-apocalyptic movie?
It's not post-apocalyptic. Wait a minute. God damn it, Kyle. That was going to be my community get a load of this, but that's a great point. Let's talk about it now. Yeah, so have you guys watched that trailer for Here, the new Robert Zemeckis movie?
No.
I was so intrigued by it because I was listening to an interview with Alan Silvestri.
Seems like a band jam.
Oh, it's in. But Alan Silvestri, the composer, I was listening to an interview with him a while ago. Janet, he composed like Back to the Future and a bunch of great movies like that. You might be familiar with.
Small titles.
Yeah. But
he's just getting his start.
That's right. But he was talking about, he's like, yeah, Zemeckis' new movie. He's like, I can't reveal what it is, but it's really, really bold and strange, and it's never been done in cinema before. And so then when this trailer dropped, I am so into this. So it's called Here, and it's a movie that takes place in one room, but it's that one room throughout time. And so it literally is showing like a living room, like with dinosaurs and a meteor hitting.
Yeah. The camera does not move. Like it seems like it's locked in one position, and it like it's a weird, and it kicks off with a dinosaur. It's really weird.
And then there's like pregnant Native American women giving birth in this space that will eventually become the living room where you get to see this family evolve and stuff. And they're doing like de-aging on Tom Hanks to make him look like he's young again, and he's like introducing the love of his life.
You're doing a reverse big somehow.
Yeah, but it's so weird and wonky. I am on board for it. It feels like, look, Robert Zemeckis has made some of the greatest movies of all time, and he's made a lot of turds, like Beowulf and the Pinocchio remake and all that stuff, right? But just it feels like the type of movie, like, it's bold and weird, but at the same time, I'll regret this, but at this moment, I feel like he can't mess it up. There's nothing to mess up. This is just a cool idea, and if I get to watch people in one room throughout an hour and 10 minutes, apparently, which is how long it is, like, mission accomplished. Show me a dinosaur in that room, and then show me somebody giving birth in that room, and that'll be it. Not in a graphic kind of way.
Adventure Time did this first, by the way. They have an episode where Jake is a brick, and he just sits as a brick and stares at one place the entire episode. It's like one of the best episodes.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
I think
Chad
actually
is saying it's based on a graphic novel.
Yeah. That's like showing panels from across time and stuff. But it seems very cool.
But as we've established, it's post-apocalyptic.
It is post-apocalyptic because they showed the dinosaur apocalypse. That's right. It's all very clear. Lamb Dance writes in and says, hey, for those who stream, thank you for referring to us in our official English terminology name. How hard is it to balance playing a difficult game while still entertaining the audience? I guess that's your whole thing, Ellie.
Yeah, I love this question. I love telling people that it's literally just like a skill that you have to learn. Like, it is rough. And the thing that conditioned me was beating Orphan of Cause at level 4, like no leveling Bloodborne while streaming. And it reached a point where I was just reading chat through phase 1. I was like,
whoa.
not even looking, because it is like a muscle that you have to develop. Like when you first start out streaming and people say, oh my God, I don't know how you can stream for like 6 hours. And you're like, it's because it's an endurance thing. I've learned how to do this and I've conditioned myself to do this. And yeah, everyone is garbage, trash humans when they first start playing hard games on stream, and you can't focus on chat and tech stuff and gameplay and also winning at the gameplay, you know? Yeah, it's really hard, but like anything with practice, it comes to you eventually. So
there's something about that idea too of like when I'm streaming, I just hope the chat is engaged and that it's entertaining, and I feel like if you're going up against a really hard boss fight, it almost is doing some of the lifting for you of like, well, if you're watching this, you're probably slightly more engaged than if I was just jumping around in some easy platformer trying to vaguely recall the plot of other Robert Zemeckis movies or something. That's a lot on
awesome.
me.
What are you talking about?
Oh, really? Okay, check out my streams. You'll love them, Jen.
I'm sold.
No,
I have bad taste. I don't know.
But I think it does, it's tough to talk, but then again, you kind of don't need to talk when you're in a really tense fight because everyone's going to be on the edge of the seat, not like naturally that way.
It's also like, I feel like there's different kinds of creators too. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, sup guys, like and subscribe, we're gonna do some content today. Like the content creator thing. Mm-hmm. I just sit here in my pajamas with my dog thrashing his blanket behind me while I beat hard bosses at level 1, Like, it's just, the content makes itself. I don't have to do anything. If I get bored and I get stuck on a fight for a long time, I put Gerudo Valley 10 hours on. Yeah. And I let the chat just lose their minds slowly while I do this. It's finding your own brand of entertainment and then the people that like that entertainment. So yeah, it's simultaneously the hardest thing to do, playing hard games and being entertaining, but also you have to find, like, it's really easy to find what your level of entertainment is. Yeah.
So. I'm always curious about where the line is from when anger is fun to where it's like, oh, they're like too angry and this is coming off.
I know, it's like, I don't want to scare people.
Yeah. Because like Leo has that great video on like gamer anger and all the clips he puts in there is like, that's when it's not cool. That's when it's like, oh God, this person has a problem, blah, blah, blah. But it's also very fun to watch people get angry with games. And as someone, when I do play games that are too hard, I'm like, okay, well, don't be like a bitch about it. Like, it's bad and start screaming. Because I can scream if I get really mad at the game.
I think you're allowed to be as mad as you want at the game. It's when it gets redirected at the audience that it becomes unfun. That's when it stops being fun.
You're like breaking a controller, punching a wall or something.
Yeah, like I do fights that make me cross, but it's usually I'm cross at myself because I've done it wrong and I'm not doing the right things in the right order at the right times or whatever. And then there's sometimes where it's like things are broken and it doesn't work properly and like the fights are buggy, and that then gets frustrating at the game. If I then realize that I'm like snappy, it's like, okay, we're stopping doing this now. We're going to go do something else, because then yeah. That's probably harder, honestly, than learning how to be entertaining.
Yeah, I think as far as like the anger bit or the frustrate or the I don't really play like a lot of hard games outside of maybe like a couple platformers, but I'm a firm believer that any game is hard if you're bad enough at the game. So for me, a lot of these games are hard games. I'm like, oh my God, chat said my Queen's Blood deck is bad? Wait.
How dare they?
Is this the problem? They're like, you could use the free build. I'm like, I like what I made. Is it not balanced? That's so hard? I don't know. I think I'm a big believer in like, it's all mental. Like, that's like a big thing that I always say, like when I'm playing a game, like on stream, I'm like, don't worry guys, it's all mental. Or like, I'm a firm believer in like, the game knows if you want it too bad. Like, I don't, this is just my own like hippie philosophy where I'm like, okay, like we got to stay calm. And for me, like as far as the entertainment bit, I kind of narrate what I do. Like I read chat religiously as often as I can, and I'll like go back and catch up. But I also just talk about like, what am I thinking? What am I doing? And that's like, I guess people, if you find it entertaining, my stream's for you. And if you don't, like, there's many flavors of like how people do it. Like to your point, Ellie, it's about like being true to, I think, who you are and what you want to make. And like, there will be an audience for it. And that's just kind of all you can do. But yeah, like, you can see it even that stream that I did with Michael on Resident Evil 2 Revelations 2. I never know the name of that game. I don't really know what we played. But like, I'm like, all right, like, we're going to take a bathroom break or take a food break. When we come back, we're going to be the player we need to be. Like, we're going to cleanse the time. And so often it works because I'm like, just something about, you get up, like, we're going to get some water, like, we're going to, figure it out. And I think as far as struggle too, like, those deaths or restart points, like, for me, that's a great time to, like, go to chat and, like, see what, depending on if you like backseating or not or whatever, like, okay, like, talking through strategies or figuring things out. And that's just kind of the brand that I go for. But again, everyone does it a little differently. So, like, just do it the way you want to do it and have a good time. And then people will like it, I guess.
Some people
I don't know,
stream in silence. They play games in silence. And that's entertaining for some people to watch. And that's okay. Like, and then there's weirdos like me that scream and giggle and kick my little feet because there's a hot lady that I'm fighting, like, and that's people's entertainment. So,
hey, teach their own. The real important thing, though, do you find you get into ruts of curse words? I find that when I'm streaming, like, if I feel like every stream, if I'm being challenged and I die to a boss and I yell something, I will only yell that phrase when I'm frustrated, but it's nice to keep the full breadth. Basically, how's your...
You like want more diverse curse words?
I want more diverse.
Pulling for
I feel like you need to keep the full spread of curse words available. But if you're really frustrated, I feel like I get limited to like a solid 3.
And what are they?
What are the 3? Yeah.
You have to check out the streams. I don't know. I guess you'll see.
Oh, come on. I can stand to check the VODs, kind of.
Like, oh, nuts.
It's usually
vulgar boy.
Yeah. You can check it out on MinnMax Stream Archives, our YouTube channel, I suppose. But it's usually like some jokey, weird thing. It's a lot of like, I guess it's Raising Arizona. Going, that son, bitch. Just like quoting Holly Hunter, like that type of thing. That's a go-to. But I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I feel like depending on my levels of frustration, there's definitely like a graph, of like it does diminish the more cross I get. But like I have one that I come from one specific New Yorker friend that I fall back on all the time, and people are like, where? But as a Brit, I come out with all sorts of things. Like I've been teaching my community how to British insult people.
Oh,
so,
nice. Yeah. What's the New Yorker one? Can you lay it on us?
Am I allowed to swear? Is that okay?
I'll bleep it, but I want to hear it.
He'll bleep it.
Oh, okay. The current one is motherfucker. Like, that's what I usually go for.
Yeah,
and it makes no sense.
Heart with that one. I love a good change swear. Yeah. Like I do say like bitch all the time, which I get if you don't like that hearing that word. My content's not for you because I am like
interesting.
And I'll just and it's not even like a frustration. It's like almost like a mantra. Like I'll just repeat it over and over again as I'm doing something, and like I'm not even necessarily mad, but this is how I align into focus.
Yep.
It's funny you say that. The best one that the best ones that I come out with are during Mario Kart. Like community Mario Kart brings out the best swears because that is a whole other level of frustration. Yeah.
Because you get to play off the different names. You can come up with a bunch of swears that are good for babies in carts, for dry bones in carts. Like, there's a lot of good playful material there instead of just Big Dragon like killing you again and again.
Dumb little fucking baby Mario.
Whoa! Jesus
really
Christ! Haley,
it's not funny for the audio listeners. That's what I was going for.
No, the British way is the somebody throws a bomb at you and you turn around and call them a fucking chicken nugget, like that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's good.
It's great.
That's really good.
Also, now I'm in the mood for chicken nuggets, like anyone else. Like
the Quebec swears are into and all, the whole tabernacle, chalice, all that stuff. Is that up your alley?
I used to have certain French, like Quebecois, like tendencies for certain things, and like hello, like that kind of stuff would just come out, and I was like, I'm British. Like, where is this coming from? But never anything like I wouldn't do the aggressive swears because I was like, this isn't my culture, Like I've got my own words that I can use, and they are just as baffled by them as I am of their swears.
Right.
It works.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sabai writes in, the very natural transition. They say, what's the best video game helmet? Great question, Sabai. This is a good thing.
Doom Guy's helmet?
Master Chief, I think.
Okay,
yeah. So Master Chief's just Doom Guy with like a slightly different green,
Okay. Any sort of green.
Master Chief is what came to mind because it was like, there's so many specific
They used to sell merch. Helmet. That was like that thing. We had the helmet, and you lift it up, and you can store games inside.
Yeah, that was like the Halo 3 Collector's Edition.
Yeah.
And then
The
when
cat
you beat
helmet.
Halo 1, there's a big moment where he takes off his helmet and it like, the cinematography blocks his face so you can't see his face and stuff. But but it's not a very fun one.
It's okay. I like the texture. I like the kind of hex, kind of gold pattern there if you really zoom in on it. But yeah, people are bringing up Samus's helmet. That's a great looking helmet.
It just feels like it's all
the
connected. Like I
Skyrim.
know that the helmet is separate from the suit, but I just see it as all one like chunk.
Yeah.
Like she walks into it.
Yeah. That's how I see it.
Also,
the one they sold for that collector's edition that everyone hated, Fallout 76, like that helmet's pretty cool.
Okay.
I grew up Mega Man X kid, and that's like his head, right? But Mega Man, he can take off his helmet and he has a full head of hair, and that was very strange to me growing up.
I was going to say Mega Man as well, specifically Mega Man Legends Mega Man, otherwise known as Mega Man Walnut. Give him his due respect. His Christian name, Walnut. But I love that because in that game, as you're running around, you can choose to unequip the helmet. And I always thought that was so cool. Like, when I'm not in combat, I can run around and just see Mega Man's hair all around.
I do like that one.
It's nice. Adam writes in, another June comes and goes with not a whisper from Team Cherry. Obviously, they owe people nothing with Hollow Knight Silksong, but by now, the cycle of hype and patience has looped around so often, no one's even sure what to feel anymore. It's like they're sitting in Robert Zemeckis' living room, just watching time pass.
Oh my god! Are we sponsored by this movie?
We should be. I want to be, man. I'm all in on here, Janet. Deepest dive on here. At this point, is their silence smart or rude?
It's like a meme now. It's almost good marketing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm Team Smart.
Team Smart.
Like I was there, full clown wig, clown face paint, clown nose, in the Xbox conference room, sat with my new best friend that I made at Summer Games Fest, and I was like, it's time. It has to happen this time. It's time. My marketing brain is telling me this is the one. They're gonna show it. And then they got to the one more thing, and it was Gears of War. And I was like, why? Like, sat in the room and I was like ready to get up and walk out. Like I have not bought into any of these, like, they're going to show Silksong. They're going to show Silksong, like, because I'm smart about it. But no, I fell for it this time. And I am in the camp of devs take all the time they need to make games, and not saying anything is safer than saying something at this point, because who knows what state that game is in, and anything they say is rope given to the crowds to like use.
Oh God.
I do wonder if Team Cherry is even being that methodical about it, because I think they're probably just focused on making the game, and they just don't have an update. So why offer one? That's my assumption, you know.
They're like, hey, we're still working on this. They do tweet about it.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah, occasionally.
That's
and everyone's
nice. Yeah, as long as you know, like, we're working really hard right now. I just feel like if you send that out into the world every once in a while, you're set.
Yeah, I think it's smart, especially too, like, and I think it's par for the course on how we see, like, because they're still independent, right? Like indie marketing functions, because you don't get a lot of, like, I feel like in the indie space, you're lucky if people know about your game at all. So they've already won. Like, people know their game. People are excited for the game. Cool. Let us know when you have, like, the release date or the release window for the game, and that's about it. Like, putting too much info out there not only is unnecessary, but I think, to your point, Ellie, like, it can kind of come back and bite them if they, like, God forbid they give it, like, what would happen if they gave a timeline and then didn't hit that timeline? I mean, they already did that.
They let Xbox do that. Yeah.
Losing their mind.
They already did that. They were like, it's going to come out in the next year, and then it didn't, and everyone was like, rah, about it. Like, it's not their fault. Yeah. And now they're just like, we're just not going to say anything because you can't behave yourselves. Like, cool.
No more toys.
Yeah, the bad gamers don't get any new toys, okay? Right.
Like, Pate Rian writes in and says, on the last podcast, you talked about games on 2019's 210s list, and you mentioned the number 11 and number 19 games. I'm unfamiliar with those numbers. Did you also put out a top 20 list? Great point, Pate. You caught us. Sorry, Ellie, this is some deep cut dorky MinnMax stuff, but well done, Pate. Admiral Akbar's Snack Bar writes in and says, hey, MinnMax, this is going to be a blind ranking. Y'all know how these work? Below is a random selection of games that have appeared on the 210s for MinnMax since 2019. Your goal is to rank these games 1 to 5 without knowing which games will be on the list. Once a game is given a spot, you will be locked into that spot. Yeah, ready to go?
Got it.
Yeah.
5 games. Here we go. So choose where it lands, 1 through 5 for our little mini top 5 games, let's say of all time right here.
The 1-5.
That's right. Stupid. Stupid. Death Stranding, 1 through 5. Where does it go?
Spicy. I actually didn't play Death Stranding yet. I've been wanting to. So I guess I'll recuse myself.
Okay.
And then come in later because I can't help it. You know,
I love Death Stranding.
Damn! Okay. I was about to be like, it's the best game ever. Let's put it at 1.
I mean, we don't know what else is coming up. I do. You all don't. Yeah. So where would you put Death Stranding on this list?
I like Death Stranding a lot. I'm gonna go like 4.
Myself. Whoa, 4.
Are we saying 1 is best, 5 is
correct
worst?
Yep.
Like, okay.
The worst of
the next
best.
one might be Monkey Ball Rumble Banana.
That's the thing. I agree with saving 5 for like. I feel like there's some games that maybe could be under Death Stranding. Is the next one?
I think it's a 3.
Middle. Yeah,
it's a 3 because the people that love it, but it's so weird that a lot of people don't like it, and that's okay.
All right, there we go.
These are all games from the 210s, right?
Yes, from the history.
We know they're good. We know they're solid.
Okay.
Ben, I'm so with you.
All right, here we go.
I too am politely making a high-pitched sound.
Okay.
We know that they're games that we have a passion for.
That's right.
Games.
Somebody had a passion for it. Okay, here we go. Hades.
Oh, that's like people really love that game.
Yep.
So Death Stranding's 3?
Correct.
This is 2.
I would put it at 4, but I'm also like, I'm not the biggest Hades fan in the world.
I haven't really played Hades like that.
Sorry.
We can't be friends.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Can you
I
leave
only
this
got
out?
Hades. Yeah.
I like Hades, but it's just not like.
Doesn't seem like it. Okay, bye, Kyle. We're actually going to remove you from the podcast for this just chunk visually.
All he ever talks about is how much he hates Hades, how much he loves Luigi Mansion.
Yeah, he wants to trade out the D for a T.
Give me an undermine. Then we can talk.
Okay, so where does everyone else think Hades should go?
I think 1 or 2. Hades is fantastic.
I think 2 is fair, and we have a little wiggle room if something insane pops up.
Okay, team. Hades is
what
number 2.
What do you think, Kyle and Janet? Do you want to fight us?
It sounds good, because I really have spent very little time with both Hades and Death Stranding, but sure. I think saving 1 for like maybe something wild would be there is always nice.
Okay, here we go. Next option, Riders Republic, which was number 14 back in 2021.
We were saving 5 for you.
I've never even heard of that game.
Yeah, what's that?
It's a Ubisoft joint.
It's like a bicycling. It's like not bicycling. It's like a extreme sports game with an emphasis on biking, but there's also a couple other aspects I think too. And the biking was actually pretty solid, but I just didn't. I didn't play it like that deep. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, you can be a dinosaur. You can be in a dinosaur suit. And ride a bike.
It's a 5.
I think it's like the Steep developers. I think it's their next project. After that, I think it was. I think.
But yeah, this is. We were saving 5 for you, Riders Republic.
Okay.
We knew that Leo pick was going to show up in there.
Next one is Horizon Forbidden West, which was number 8 in 2022. So we have number.
What is the 5 that we have so far? What is the
number 1 is blank. Number 2 is Hades, 3 is Death Stranding, 4 is blank, 5 is Riders Republic.
4 is blank? Oh, damn. All right.
4 is Horizon.
4, probably.
4 is Horizon.
4 is Horizon.
4 is Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah,
so we are locked into whatever this last game is our number
honestly,
one game.
This list is actually kind of legit because I have not played Death Stranding, but I could see what's left.
You need to raise your hand and swear on a holy Bible that this list is legit.
It was before whatever you have next. I don't know what's next.
The number 1 game is Days Gone. Days Gone, number 1. So of course the list is Days Gone, the greatest game of all time, then Hades, then Death Stranding, then Horizon Forbidden West, then Riders Republic. Thank you, so Admiral Akbar Snack Bar. Yeah, perfect. Okay, speaking of nailed it, Ellie, the eyes of the world are watching you. What do you think is question of the week? What made the show better? And I just let me help you out. I'm here to help. I'm like the mimic tier coming in. So the one about the FOMO, current discourse, all that stuff. The one about the sales for Nintendo Switch Sports, unexpected. DLC, just why doesn't DLC make a splash? How this is technically a post-apocalyptic world. How hard is it to balance playing a difficult game while being entertaining?
Which reminder turned into a profanity discussion.
Which one? That's true. The blind ranking's fun, but what's standing out to you?
I think it's the accidental profanity discussion.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Ben
it. So
has an extra 15 minutes of editing.
It's going to be great.
I love a good snowball discussion on a podcast where it's like you start out with one thing and you end up like 8 Wikipedia pages away. You know, it's that kind of thing.
That's
also, in terms of the blind ranking thing, I'm just going to throw out there, do you see what happens when you don't rank Horizon that highly? I'm just stating sentences.
I was screaming like Hades should be number 1, Hades should be number 1, but all right.
I said number 1.
I know.
I trusted my gut. I said
who
number
was
1.
the one that pushed it down?
You monster, Kyle.
We have no way of knowing.
Congratulations, Lamb Dance. You just won that Mario vinyl from iMadeBit.
A lot of us weren't here when Days Gone made the list to begin with, which I feel like, how weak was that year that Days Gone made the list?
Well, Jeffum was really hot on it. Blame Jeffum, but that game's fine. Okay.
Damn, Jeffum also likes Horizon. I'm in bad company.
Sorry.
It's just a mess over here.
You're stuck to us, Janet. Okay, now it's time for something we'd like to call Get a Load of This. Ellie, no pressure if you don't have a little factoid, but you can take your time and think about it if you want. I'll continue to bore people by talking about Quebec, fun overlap with Ellie here, where, hey, get a load of this. The huge hotel that Chateau Frontenac, I'm sure I'm butchering the name, so I apologize, in Quebec City. Really? Thank you, Haley.
Yeah.
Huge, amazing looking hotel, and we went on like a walking history tour, and they were explaining that they planned D-Day in that hotel. That they cleared out the entire hotel so that Roosevelt and Churchill and top brass could all get in there and plan D-Day. And the wild thing is, I mean, it's a huge hotel. They had to kick everybody out and cancel all reservations, and they couldn't explain why, which is wild. But the strange part is they locked it down, right? But there was a bunch of press being like, Roosevelt's here, Churchill's here, this is a big deal, what is going on? And so all the press stayed in the hotel across the street to try and figure out, and they realized like, oh my God, they're planning the invasion of Europe here, the reclaiming of Europe. And the big question is where the invasion is going to be. What beach are they landing on? And so the big question for all the press, and it turns out the hotel that the press were all staying in was called Hotel Normandy. And they still just had no idea that it just naturally overlapped like that. Fun history coincidence for everybody.
That's terrifying.
I don't know what terrifying, but yeah.
Do you think they chose it because they looked out the window?
That's the question. I wouldn't think so, but you never know.
God.
Churchill was really notoriously very lazy, so that could be.
Your factor is very scary. I guess I'll go next. I don't know what to do. Get a load of this.
Fun.
Yeah, mine is from this content creator on TikTok named Coach Jackie. All my stuff's just from TikTok, really, at the end of the day. Don't look into it. Talking about how the Chicago Sky fans, like the Chicago's WNBA team, want to get rid of the mascot for the Chicago Sky. It's this mascot named Sky Guy. He's just like a man who like wears like a little outfit, and he has a jetpack, but canonically he cannot use it. It's just for show, canonically. And it's like he just hangs out, he does little tricks, and and like people are just like, why? Who? And then also the lore of Sky Guy is that he grew up with like nothing but sisters, and he loved watching his sisters play basketball, and that's why he like loves women's sports. It's weird.
Love that.
The vibes are just
I love Sky Guy. I defend
the vibes
him.
are hyper specific, and most mascots are like animals or like I don't know, something related more specific to the team. So I guess I don't have I'm not gonna pretend like I had my hat in the ring here, but I just was amused by the mascot drama of it all. And I also feel like this is, I don't know, maybe it's just a Chicago thing. Like, we always have this drama with mascots. I remember when they had Clark the Cub, and everyone was like, why do we have Clark the Cub? Focus on the team. There's a lot of passion coming from Chicago about a lot of specific things, and this is one of them. So yeah, just kind of an amusing, like, sports, not sports kind of thing to share out.
Love it.
Hey, get a load of this. Did you guys know that there is a better preserved exact copy of the Mona Lisa made by one of Da Vinci's students?
No.
They painted it at the same time in the same studio as Leonardo da Vinci.
What?
And it shows details that are not visible in the Mona Lisa anymore.
No way.
So like her sleeves are red. You can see like more color and stuff like that. And it looks, I mean, you can tell that it's like different, but it's very close. Which is just a wild, weird thing. I had no idea that existed.
So it was just like he was just over his shoulder, just like painting what he was painting.
Just an intern. Yeah, let me hang out with this guy. I'll do what he's doing. I'll try to replicate what he's doing.
Yeah, but what's the lesson in that if an intern could replicate that easily? Come on.
That Da Vinci is overrated.
That's what I've been trying to say.
This was the topic of the show last week.
Get out of my history.
Hates Hades.
Mm-hmm.
Da Vinci has like the most badass last words said, isn't it? I think it might not be his last words, but he's like, I have upset God with how poor my work has been, and then he like died.
Whoa!
I was like, whoa.
I like how that's your idea. The fact that's your idea of badass.
Hell
says
yeah,
so
badass.
much about the back of your baseball card, Haley. I love it.
Just like not good enough. Drops mic and dies.
so relatable icon.
I love it. You got one, Ellie?
Yeah, get a load of this. We were doing the fashion New Show Plus yesterday, and I was talking about the black milk blazers that I'm obsessed with. I have Pokemon ones. They're very subtle nerd, business casual nerdy. We need more of that in the world. So I was like, oh, I'll look up black milk. They have a Zelda one. Instant purchase. They have all the sizes still. That's like unheard of for black milk. Usually they have like one size left, and it's the size 2 or something. Would never fit me, fit my arm maybe. And I was like, oh my God. And I bought it and love it. I can't wait to get it. I don't know. It's just, I bought the first Bulbasaur one in 2022. So like, it's been 2 years that I think about these blazers. So it's a big update for personal life.
That's good.
They're really nice. They're nicely made blazers. The inside of it is the map of Hyrule in this really nice green color. And then they have the Hyrule logo embroidered on the front right pocket. It just looks really classy. It's a black one too. They've never done just a classic black blazer.
Lovely. Links below for all this fun stuff. Ellie, you could not be more on the spot. I apologize for telling you this was a thing today.
Okay.
You're welcome to pass if you don't have any factoid.
I completely forgot that you asked me to do this, and I was like, what fun facts have I heard recently? And I remembered that my partner tried to get me with a fun fact that I like Uno reversed on him, which is, get a load of this. Did you know that Simba's singing voice in The Lion King, like the original Lion King, adult Simba, is John Williams' son, who is also the lead singer of Toto.
No.
And my partner thought he'd got me with this, and he was like, I've got a Disney fact that you won't know. And I was like, oh. And I got him with that. So, yeah.
Wait a minute.
John Williams, the composer who did like Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
Of course, his son is the lead singer for Toto?
Movies, but
his son is the lead singer of Toto, and also in Hakuna Matata, that one little bit where Simba sings.
I need no worries. Like he really belts it out, like that whole thing.
That's him.
Whoa, that's good.
That's cool.
You put the rest of us to shame. Hey, in the Get a Load of This Discord channel from the community where people share great stories all day, every day. It's the greatest news feed you could ever hope for. Better than Twitter, we say. Let's see. We had, forgive me for forgetting who submitted this, but they submitted a trailer for a new game called Cattle Country. Have you seen this, Ellie?
No.
You might be interested. It's a cute, cozy farming sim about raising cows, but they got a narrator for the trailer. Here, I'll play it.
It's not often we see new faces in town, but, I reckon you've ridden in at just the right time.
Okay, so it's a whole trailer narrated by basically...
It's Roger Clark.
Yeah.
Yes!
Do you think... I'm sure Rockstar's like, you can't be a cowboy without us. That's not legally fair. But yeah, so it's narrated by the voice of Arthur Morgan there.
Love it.
But that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, listening, sharing, living, loving, laughing, all that fun stuff. Ellie, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a good sport.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Yeah, it's fun just to bring in people completely out of the blue. And thank you for knocking it out of the park and being a delight. Let's see. If people, again, want to follow you on Twitch, where should they go?
I am Ellie Joy Panic everywhere.
Smart. That's, again, smart branding. You're on top of it. Keep it the same. Like Janet with Gameonesis. Just one name. Get it out there as much as possible. Awesome. Let's see. For MinnMax stuff, we have Bonus Pod, Haley's bonus podcast that's exclusive to Patreon supporters. Let's see. I was on this week and we dove in deep about Final Fantasy VII because Haley, she blasted through all of Remake and she's blasting through all of Rebirth. And so we got to unpack her thoughts, and it's fun to hear somebody completely new to the Final Fantasy franchise, what they think about characters like Yuffie and Kate Sith that are my old dear friends. But it's fun to hear Haley's take on that.
Are you enjoying it, Haley?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, because Ben needs that right now because he's hearing a lot of us be like, I don't know about
It's not enough to have a newcomer who
really
hates
sad.
Let's see. On the dorky tidbit thing, we now have a playlist on MinnMax's YouTube channel if you're a new listener. And we hear every once in a while from people of like, I don't know where to start. MinnMax has been around for almost 5 years now. We have a playlist on YouTube now that's on the main page called Greatest Hits. And so you can jump in there, and we've just made a playlist of some of our favorite content throughout the years. And so it's fun to go take a stroll through memory lane and check that out. So thanks to the community for actually suggesting that idea. Also, speaking of community, we have been cryptically teasing that we are doing a big community meetup in Asheville, North Carolina. You all voted for it to be out of anywhere in the United States. You all voted for the whole thing to be in Asheville, North Carolina. And we have finally locked down a date for when that is happening. And we have said that it's the big September meetup, but we were lying to your frickin' faces because it turns out October 5th, the first weekend of October, is the weekend that worked the best for everybody. So October 5th of this year is when the big MinnMax community meetup is happening in Asheville, North Carolina, and I am right at the 1 yard line for locking down the location for that, but we'll communicate that soon and put a post out on Patreon. But if you want to swing by, say hello. A lot of us are going to be flying out to Asheville on that October 5th, so you can come say hi, have a drink. We can stand around in the yard and talk about games for a couple hours. It'll be a lovely time, but more info coming soon. But thanks to everybody for being patient on that front. Also, obviously, deepest dive on Elden Ring. This podcast is great. Ellie being here has made it magical, but it can't compare to the magic of the deepest dive, the best, most thorough discussion about games on the internet. It's going on right now for Shadow of the Erdtree. It's on MinnMax's YouTube channel and in that bonus podcast feed as well, which you can unlock by supporting us on Patreon, where, again, if you support us before the end of the day on June 28th, you will get a code for Tales of Kenzera Zao on Steam. That's it. Thanks so much, Ellie. Great job again. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Come back whenever you want to. And that is it for this episode of the MinnMax Show. So we'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks so much. Be good, have fun. Let's go.